Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I am your host, GameChanger. All right, so wanted to talk because yesterday's video and a couple other videos, I made it clear that I have a look/personality type when it comes to women, and that is the personality type, at least, is the quirk nerdy type of black girl. Now, not to say that I'm not interested in women of all races, but black girls who just so happen to be nerdy, I find particularly appealing. One, because many of them have the physical features that I like, and the culture that I like if they're into some nerd stuff. And two, because I know that the black community has a very strong pull. It has a very strong pull. It has a way of pulling people into it, or really just kind of forcing people into it, because many of them don't want to be there. So if you're openly a black woman and you're a nerd, it means that you overcame a very strong stereotype, which says something about you. It means that you don't fall into other negative stereotypes like feminism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, making you more appealing to me than if you came from a culture where people are encouraged to be themselves. So I do have a special place for black nerds. Now, in that spirit, I came across a young lady. I don't know, she probably in her 30s, maybe late 20s or something like that, who was telling the story about her Oreo experience, what it was like growing up and yearning to be, let's just call it mainstream black, or, hit the like button, or yeah, let's just call it mainstream black, like hip hop black, or whatever you want to call it. She wanted to be that. She struggled. She yearned for it. She yearned for it to no avail. And we're going to talk about what that does to an individual, a person, and really how that affects why the culture is doing that, why the culture is behaving this way. We're going to give a deep, thorough examination of that. So hit the like button because we're definitely going to get into it. All right. Somebody give me a volume check while I do the short of the day, and then I'll say what's up to the people here. And then we get started. Hit the like button, people. All right, the volume is at the top, so I don't really know what y'all need. All right, fair use.
Hey, give me my money.
Really? What's wrong?
Can you give me your money?
Is that like Labo? Santal 33?
Yeah, give me the money right now.
It's getting dangerous. I ain't never been
Girl,
robbed
I will
before.
cut you. Put that down.
Giving private. Hey, that's Prada.
If you don't put that back in the bag.
Hey, can we split it?
Girl, I will split you. Let it go.
Ooh, okay. Hey! I'm gonna call you.
Hey. Hello?
So we have something in common. Got your phone.
Hey, give me my money.
Okay. Pretty funny. Basically, she's the girl that played too much. I thought that was funny, and I want to share it with you. Kind of cute, and yeah, apparently she was attracted to the dude that was robbing her. So yes, that is a thing. All right, so moving on. Now, the thing about black culture is that unlike any other minority culture that I know of, it it has a strong influence on the dominant culture as far as dominant in numbers. Native American culture doesn't have the same, neither does Mexican American or Asian American, but Asian American do have a strong influence through martial arts on mainstream American culture, but not to the extent that Black American culture has. Now, the unfortunate thing is it's one that's based in youth. It's a very young people thing to do. Like it's one of those things that's cool to do when you're young, but it doesn't really translate into a functional adult. It doesn't. There's nothing about the mainstream understanding of Black culture. Hit the like button that says, okay, we're going to get a functional adult out of this. There's no principles and values to it. And I'm not talking about Black culture in general, I'm talking about the mainstream of it. So, a lot of people from different cultures, they either grow out of it entirely or they find themselves just visiting it but not incorporating it into their own personal lives deeply to where it impacts them in a negative way. So that's the problem. Now, there are Black people who are 10 toes down into it, meaning that, this is not only what they're doing, this isn't just a temporary thing, this is who I am. This is part of what I am going to be. And if I am not this thing, then I'm not keeping it real, which means that you haven't matured since you were like 14. You haven't really changed. Keeping it real is really an arrested development thing. Speaking of arrested, it's not only arrested development, it's an arrested. You are actually getting arrested over this culture, over this keeping it real culture. It doesn't hit the same when you're an adult. We're the group of people that you see 40-year-old men sagging and spell sagging backwards. Like, we're that culture where you see that. And that's because there isn't a developed Black culture that they feel comfortable with transitioning into. So they just keep this juvenile culture for a long time. So it holds you back. But we're not really going to talk about too much about the problems of the Black culture. Let me just say what's up to the people here. Salute Chowhound. Salute Josh. Y'all over in movie night checking this out. Appreciate you. Salute Melissa. Appreciate you, love. Let's see. Anthony. Appreciate you. And King Picks. Salute. Thanks to the early birds for being here. All right. So what we're going to do is talk about how this affects somebody. 1D forever. Peace. How this affects somebody who is doing what a person is naturally prone to do, and that is gravitate towards aspects of cultures that you like more. For example, if you like Oriental martial arts, however you find yourself interested in Black music and Black dance form, but you also like Japanese cartoons, and you like white food or you like Latin food or something like that, then you're a dynamic individual. You are a person who picks aspects of cultures that you like the best and embrace each of these aspects, as you should. I don't think that there exists a better food than Latin food. I don't think that there exists better cartoons than Japanese cartoons. Some of the better writers that I know of just so happen to be white, or a small-headed white person. And there's nothing wrong with that. But especially when you're younger, there is a cohort of Black people that feel that you should embrace every single cultural aspect of Blackness as your top pick. And that is something that I could never get with, nor am I down with. Because quite frankly, a lot of Black movies are trash. They're complete and total and utter garbage. And the same with a lot of black music. And I'm not talking about like, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, Al Green, or somebody like that. I mean, there's beautiful like black music. Black people have the most beautiful music in the world, but they also have the crappiest music in the world. Is what it is. So I do ignore the crap and I embrace the beauty of it. Hit the like button, as any smart person should. So we're going to talk about this young lady who who has been ostracized for being smart, which is something that we like to do. I don't know of a culture where stupidity is embraced so vividly. I really don't. And that's going to be a problem because the adult world, unfortunately, do not embrace stupidity like that. It doesn't. So we're going to cover this girl. Hit the like button. Hit the like button, people. Old Motown was great. Old Motown was great. Marvin Gaye was great. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about Old Motown for a second before I get into this video. Um, and I seen this movie, and I wanted to cover it on movie night, but I couldn't find it because there's a new movie with the same name. The name of the movie is called Talk to Me with Don Cheadle and Taraji P. Henson. And Don Cheadle played a radio station host. And it's based on a true story. He was a funny man, and black people gravitated towards him, and he was what was considered mainstream black at the time. This was back in the Sidney Poitier days and the Motown days and stuff. And one of the first things he did when he went on air was he said Berry Gordy is a real true PIMP. And I was like, wait, what? So the first thing he did was diminish the upstanding black man, or at least the presenting upstanding black man. That's the first thing they do. That's the first thing the ones that, who identify as nagagas do. They diminish the image of the upstanding black man, which, flaws aside, that's what Berry Gordy was. May he rest in peace. Now, he brought some of the greatest music that exists today, if not the greatest music. He was the producer of that. Temptations, Little Richard, Michael Jackson when he was a child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He brought this into, and the classic movies, the Show Nuff is all him. The Wiz, all him. But they existed a cohort of black people that just looked at him as an Uncle Tom and Oreo and stuff like that. And that's because, well, we'll get into why that is. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Motown because that's an example of that. All right. Hit the like button, people.
I am Bree. It's nice to see you again, hopefully so soon after my last video. Today's video is a video that I have been thinking about making for a long time, but guess what? I was worried about how it would be perceived, and you'll find out why later. During the election, I was very surprised to hear my home county of Gwinnett, Georgia, was brought up as being one of the most diverse counties in the country. In my mind, I was like, that makes a lot of sense as to why I grew up to hate myself. I'm just kidding. I don't hate myself, but I was really frustrated with myself. I was really frustrated.
Okay, so let me know, is it choppy to y'all? Let me know. Okay, so we're going to read some. Okay, thumbs up. That's good. All right, then we're gonna keep going with it. Cool. Said just remember watching Soul Train every week. Exactly. Exactly. See, this stuff, there's always the image like behind the scenes of the upstanding brother. The Don Cornelius with the suit every day, presenting it. Like this was the image of black men. That is black excellence. The upstanding black man with the suit and the people who are falling behind his agenda. That is how society works. Now, the people who produce black entertainment, the black men who produce black entertainment, are literally wearing dresses. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. But but anyway, yeah, shout out to Tyler Perry. But there's going to be a pushback. There's going to be a pushback from a certain image. And she felt that pushback at a very young age.
With my personality, and I really wanted to change. When I was 12 years old, I was getting off of the bus. My school was very diverse. In fact, walking up into the apartment complex, one of us was Mexican, one of us was Pakistani, two of us were Black, including me, and one of the other guys was, I don't know what he was. He was Latino. He definitely wasn't Mexican, but he was Latino. The Black boy called me an Oreo. I don't remember what I said. I don't know if I said something to him or not. I actually think I had a crush on him, but I remember he responded back with, well, you're an Oreo anyway. And he didn't say it to be funny. He wasn't trying to be cute. He was trying to hurt my feelings. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever heard that at 12 years old. And then I started hearing it all the time. Bitch, when I tell.
Okay. I don't know if she knows this. She should by now. If she's around 30, she definitely should by now. He liked you too. He liked you too. And this was, you hit the girl you don't like, even though they're a little bit older than that. But it's a little bit deeper because he obviously liked you too, and he didn't know how to approach you because you are different and because you have interests that he don't understand. So he of course wasn't thinking this on a conscious level. It was just more subconscious, like, okay, I know how to approach Keisha. And that's because her interests are predictable. I know she's not going to hit me with something, like have you heard this latest K-pop song? So he has to grapple with that. He has to, he has to figure you out. Now, him coming with the whole, you're an Oreo thing is really just him. It's a form of game. It's really just him like, okay, I'm going to get you to try to come on my terms, make it seem like everything you do is wrong. I'm going to get you to conform to something, and then that way I can understand you better and have access to you, or you will attempt to understand me in order to not be an Oreo. Yeah, it's complicated for a 12-year-old, but I think that he just went with a technique that he thought would work. But he liked you too.
You, I was highly offended. So let me just explain to you what an Oreo is, okay? In case you don't know. Essentially, it's black on the outside and white on the inside. Did you catch the symbolism of my shirt? It is basically intra-community discrimination saying that a Black person acts white. So there are going to be some people here who probably think there's nothing wrong with calling somebody an Oreo, it's whatever. Like you were just called that as a kid. Get over it. That's true. I definitely should get over it. Why am I struggling with it so much? I'm actually struggling with a lot of these things that affected me as a child because, surprise, I grew up and they're still affecting me as an adult, okay? I still have a really hard time relating to other Black people. I know, that sucks. Except for my fellow Oreos, we see each other and we connect. But unfortunately, nothing sticks, probably because we're all antisocial people. That's the thing. I think a lot of people who are Oreos are very much introverted and
now she actually That's interesting. I'm one. Okay, full disclosure. I don't think I was ever really called an Oreo, and if I was, I didn't internalize it. Like I don't remember it, and it's not that it was. It would be like, oh, that's just a memory you're suppressing or something like that. It was just like, okay, and that's because I've been called a lot of things, and they've all been within the nerd realm. So, and really, it after a while, it's just like, okay, yeah, that's what I am. I can't change that. And I think what separates me from her, besides the gender and the time and place that we grew up, is that for a guy, if you're a guy, you're a young man and you're a nerd, the criteria to not be a nerd is not just social. It's not. I was a nerd for a number of reasons, primarily because of my cultural interests, but really I was a nerd because I was completely unathletic. And there was nothing I could do about it, nor did I want to. Nor did I want to. See, for her to be, I guess not a Oreo, she would probably just have to, or at least in her mind, she would just have to embrace Black culture, be able to talk Black, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, in order for me to be not a nerd, I would literally have to learn how to play basketball. I would literally have to watch basketball and discover what non-nerds is talking about. And I did not want to do that crap. I could not stand watching basketball or football or no crap. I literally couldn't. My dad would get pissed because I was his son and I didn't watch the Raiders, and it just wasn't me. There was nothing anybody could do to you call me a nerd all you want to. I'm not sitting through 2 hours of people just ramming each other, or people just, trying to put a ball in a hole. I'm not doing that crap. So I just was like, hey, this is what I am, and it wasn't many Black nerds where I was from, either, but I guess there wasn't that hope of being a non-nerd, because at the time it had a very negative stigma because of for a couple of reasons. But there was this guy on the movie Revenge of the Nerds who was, in addition to being a nerd, he was also rainbow, flamboyantly so, and which is not a good look for nerds. It's not. And then there was the Steve Urkel thing that had this, over fetishization of some neighbor chick that's not that hot, So it just became, it wasn't the best thing to be at the time. But I was born and this is what I am. So, it is what it is. And she was born and this is who she is. I wish for her that she'd embraced it sooner.
And socially awkward, just like I was, because part of what makes you an Oreo also is, instead of spending a lot of time in your community talking with other people, you're probably spending a lot of time watching TV, looking at the internet, gathering these very diverse experiences.
Now, that's the thing. So it's cause and effect. I meant to say this the last time I paused it. It's cause and effect. You're an introvert because you're not embraced by any community. It's not that you're not embraced by any community because you were an introvert. I think that you became an introvert because you wasn't embraced by any community. If you were more welcomed by a Black community or a non-Black community, then you wouldn't be introverted. If you were an introvert, you probably wouldn't care as much as you do for not being embraced by a community. So I think that you were someone who was forced into being an introvert, which is tragic. Especially because you're cute. And you probably were cute when you were younger too, unless you're like a late bloomer or something. So, it's a tragedy for many reasons.
because that was me. So being called an Oreo made me absolutely.
All right, so it's buffering. I'm going to pause it for a bit while it does that. All right, let me read some of the comments while I do that. Okay, yeah, thanks for telling me that. What's good? Let's see. Astute observation. Thanks a lot. Old Motown was great. Yeah, I agree. No, there's see, I don't want to get Black culture confused with hood culture. Like, I mean, I was immersed in Black culture back when, Kid and Play, ABC, like Boys to, like, all that stuff, all the non-Easy E based stuff was definitely something I was into, and this is all Black, and this was a very beautiful aspect of the Black diaspora. So you can still have a rich Black heritage without the Nagaga stuff. If the Nagaga stuff don't interest you, you can. I love The Last. Everybody loved The Last Dragon. Everybody loved everything Barry Gordy did, but Nagaga still tried to find a way to diminish him. Yeah, exactly. Soul Train, 106 in Park, all that falls under the same category of non-Nagaga Black stuff that people can really enjoy, people can really embrace. I mean, it's 12. You're 12. You're supposed to get hit by bullets. This might be true. No, this is a definite truth. I mean, come on. Kids from remembering being one well enough to know that that's how they got down. I'm just like how she described the situation. Peace, Nanja. Okay, so let's get into it.
Disgusted with myself, and I really tried hard to double down into my Blackness to prevent that from happening. It never worked. I was never Black enough for Black people.
They
always ask me, why do you talk like that? Oh, that's weird. Why are you interested in that? When I was in college and into K-pop before anybody else had even heard of it, before the
okay, I don't know if she knows this and come to this realization when she was 26, but you're not going to. They want you to want to be like them. They want you. I mean, it's a flattery thing. Now they're never going to embrace you because they're never going because once you are completely embraced, then they lose the satisfaction of watching you try to be embraced by them. So they're never going to give you that satisfaction. That was a futile endeavor.
Name Blackpink was even uttered. In fact, Blackpink was probably still skipping rope on the playground and playing hopscotch or whatever it is kids do these days. I was like freaking jamming out to Girls' Generation, which is funny because Girls' Generation is Korean. It's not white, but it doesn't matter. That's not what being an Oreo is being about. Okay. It's not just about sounding white. It's about being weird. I had this group of friends. One of them had a car. We were driving through downtown Atlanta and they were like, Brianna, here, have the aux. I don't know. How do kids say it? Take the aux. Yeah, I don't know. So I was playing music, but my music was on shuffle. And the next song that came on was this song.
Oh, crap. All right. We're not going to do the copywritten music.
So embarrassed, especially when you're a person whose Blackness has already been tested so many times in your life. I grew up in a very diverse area.
Okay, your Blackness shouldn't be tested. You were born and this is what you are. Same with me being Black, same with me being a man, male, born with the Y chromosome. Same with me being a nerd. You're born and this is what you are. Don't let them take that from you. They can't. If anything, you're in a better position to take it from them. They should be struggling to try to figure out how to be more like you. And essentially they are. I mean, that's what code switching is. That's them trying to be like you, in order to get ahead in the adult world. But they can't because they don't listen to the music, like under scrutiny in a social setting, they crumble because they're like, wait, what?
Even though I went to different schools all throughout this county, my young childhood elementary school, I would say there was an even mix of literally everything. There was an even mix of Asians, Black people, Hispanic people, white people. I didn't think anything of it because that was what I was used to. It wasn't weird to me. But when I got to middle school, something happened. I started going to a predominantly white middle school. And also in middle school that's like around puberty. That's the age where personalities are starting to solidify. I realized that I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be popular and I wanted to have a lot of friends. By the time I got to middle school, all of my friends were nerds. We would call them lame. They were the kids that still collected Pokemon cards, which was lame by the time you got to.
Okay. My friends weren't nerds. I was, but they weren't. And it's not because I had a problem with other Black nerds or I was a self-hating Black nerd or anything like that. It just so happened to be that the kids in my neighborhood, the ones that I rode the bus to school with and stuff like that, just so happened to be not nerds. So that was that. I made friends with those who weren't nerds. If they were nerds, we'd still be friends. So, but it is interesting that all of her friends were nerds. I don't know what's wrong with that. She's going to state a problem with that. I want to figure out what that is. So maybe y'all can help me with that. Hit the like button while y'all do.
Middle school, there were the kids playing video games, and not the cool video games. They were playing like Harvest Moon and stuff like that. And I say Harvest Moon a lot. I played a lot of Harvest Moon, okay? They weren't playing the cool games like Call of Duty and stuff. Most of them were white, but there was one other Black girl there, and she got sick and she was out of school for a few weeks. And I was just there with all the rest of the white girls. I was like, I'm the only Black girl here. And I felt very much like the Black girl, and I didn't like it. I would like sit with my white friends at lunch and look over at the Black table, and they would be like fun and laughing and stuff because the kids had already started separating themselves out into different cliques by then, and I would yearn to be with them so bad. Not because I didn't like my white friends, but because I realized there was only so far I was going to be able to get being the only Black girl in a white clique. I didn't do anything about it in 7th grade.
Somebody help me understand, what does she mean by that? My friends were Black in high school, by the way, but what does she mean by that? There's only so far she can get. And I know that women look at social hierarchy and rank and stuff like that as a very sophisticated thing and as a very important thing to their life. You had friends and you enjoyed their company. Like, what else did you want? I'm legit curious. I'll actually send her a link to this video because I'm legit curious as what she's talking about. Like, was there a social hierarchy within your group of nerds that you felt that you would remain on the bottom of? Actually, something that is what she means, because I seen it. So I was in college. The Black girl and the white sorority, even if she's prettier, she never appeared as the alpha of the group. Just when they walked together in groups, you could kind of tell who's the alpha of the group, and who is like the omega of the group. And the Black girl is definitely closer to the omega than the alpha of the group. So I think that that's probably something that she's getting at, that she'll never be the alpha nerd because it's a white thing and they're not going to be led by the Black girl. I don't think that that's necessarily true with nerds. But it is true in many social hierarchies. I don't know how important being a leader of this or being high, like, why are you? I'm wondering why it's so important to you. I mean, maybe this is just me not understanding women, but why do you want to be head nerd? Yeah, there you go.
Was aware of it. And my crush at the time was actually white. His name was Joe. He is a firefighter now. My God, he is so handsome. He grew up really good. He was really cute as a child, but he grew up to be a very handsome man.
By the way, I was watching this with somebody. This part really upset him, but it, her first crush was the black dude that called her an Oreo. So I think that she just, likes what she likes, and it's not a matter of race.
Man, he's very happily married, so. Despite having a white crush at the time, I really wanted to be in with the black people. In 8th grade, I decided I was going to make the switch. My best friend at the
Holy
time was a
crap.
white girl, and just like the black girl, for some reason, she ended up getting sick and missing school for several weeks. During this time, I decided I wasn't going to talk to her anymore. She wasn't going to be my friend. She came back to school. I started being mean to her. I was short with her. It was like I was always hangry with her. Every response I had to anything she said was hangry, and I was just a bitch to her. And it's one of the
That is the worst things. And you were only in the 8th grade, but that was the worst thing you can possibly have done. Not just for you, but for all black people. Because that's what they want you to do. That's what let's just call them, Leroy's and Keisha's want you to do. Because they're going to code switch. But you done harmed yourself, and at least with your friend, in an irreparable way. Now she's going to be more reluctant to let a woman like yourself, when y'all become women, into her circle in the future, because there's going to be like this weird, strange, out of nowhere, cruelty that comes with it. She's going to think you're crazy, and you were kind of crazy. So that's the worst thing you could do. Ever notice how the Leroys and the Keisha of the world, they work very hard to assure that there's a division between black people and non-black people. Now, this is done deliberately. This is so they can later say, oh, you think that they gonna embrace you over here or over there? You think that they respect you over there? They want to make things as unhospitable for you as possible with any other culture, to force you in their culture, because in their culture, they're in charge. They are the ones who are on the top of this social hierarchy that you're describing. So they need people. They need the Barry Gordys of the world to not only want to be a part of their table, but also accept an inferior position in that table. You should say that I'm better than you and your damn table. If you are. And quite frankly, you probably are. If especially if their table is based on ill intelligence and you are intelligent, then you would be on a higher plateau. So yeah.
The things that I regret, honestly, the most in my childhood. Mallory, I'm so sorry. You did not deserve that. I was going through an identity crisis, and I was also 13, but I'm still sorry. But surprise, that didn't work. The black people didn't accept me because in their eyes, I was still the Oreo. Then I got to high school and I was like, perfect. Some of these people are people that don't know me at all. And that was the first time that I really started having black friends. And the only friends that I would allow myself to have, the black kids were from black areas. I don't know if they were from the hood, but they were freshly moving from black areas into these predominantly white schools. I had lived around diversity my entire life, and it was all I really knew. I did go to a black daycare every single year. And I did have a completely Black family that everything that I did outside of school that was related to my family was Black. We did a lot of Black people things. I watched a lot of Black shows on TV.
Now this part interests me because when I was young, a lot of friends, if not most friends, came from my parents' friends' kids, who of course were Black. So I'm wondering what happened to that particular group of Black people for her. And these aren't people who I would say are forced to be your friends. Despite any eccentricities that you may have, these aren't those type of people, but they are people because your parents are cool with each other, there is an understanding that you're going to give them more leeway than a person that you just met off the street. You're not just going to ghost them, or even though we didn't ghost back in the day, but you're not just going to they're not as easily dismissed as somebody that that you meet on the schoolyard and you just say that person is different. This is your mom's best friend's son or daughter, and you're going to see them. They're going to get invited to your birthday party, whether you want them there or not. They're going to be there on certain holidays like Christmas and stuff, whether you want them there or not. You're going to see them in church if your family went to church, so you're going to find some type of way to get along with that person. I'm wondering what happened to that group of people for her. And by the way, if you're in the chat room, because you get a notification when I do the whole at thing with them. So if you got a notification and you're in a chat room and you want to come up, I'll give you the link. So you're welcome to it. But because there's a lot of things I'm curious about and dealing with you. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, I watched all of UPN. I watched all those shows. We only listened.
UPN is another example. I'm gonna do a show on this and it really shows like this pull towards depravity that Black people seem to have, and they want to define Black culture in its most depraved form. So Moesha, and I remember it coming out, and I remember all the girls in the school was just so elated by just the name alone. Moesha sounds something very ethnic, very hood, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that they were under the impression that she was going to be, that Brandy's character was going to be more in line with a ghetto stereotype. And then when they found out that she wasn't, it's not that they lost interest, because they want to see themselves represented on television in any way, shape, or form. But what happened was interesting. I didn't find out this until later, is that the women and girls started to gravitate towards, what's her name? Nikki or Kim? I think it's Kim. The chubby one. Candace Vaughn, I think her name is. They started gravitating more towards her character than Brandy's character. And there's clips of them saying that she got more letters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, it's interesting that Black girls were gravitating towards a short, overweight, not particularly intelligent girl, when the star of the show is a slender built, intelligent girl on the show. So Countess Vaughn, thank you. So I found that interesting. Like, that was really something telling about how Black women see themselves and what Black women want to be. In fact, the show The Parkers was a result of the popularity of her character, of Countess Vaughn's character. And even the fact that the guys that Countess Vaughn's character, somebody tell me her character name in the chat room. Even the fact that her character was chasing the very same boys that was chasing Brandy's character, Moesha, it would seem like, Moesha should be the obvious choice of who I want to be when I grow up. But it wasn't, which is a clear dysfunction as it deals with Black women. You're fortunate not to be a part of that dysfunction. Unless you're a chubby kid or something like that, and you presented as stupid, they're not going to embrace you. They're going to put you in the category of Brandy, of Moesha. They embrace the worst of you so they don't feel bad about themselves. That's the thing about Black people that you didn't know when you were a kid. Okay, somebody says Countess had a better comedic chops than Brandy. Absolutely. Brandy coming up through music, and Countess, well, she also came up through music. She was what's that? Not American Idol, but I forget. She was on that show, Star Search. I think it was something like that. And that's how she got her start. But she is fat, and so her music career didn't take off that well, apparently, And I don't know if she was funny. I think her writers were just funny, and she just played the part right. She just did her job. No, I think that they appealed to her aesthetic more than her comedic chops. But they did find Brandy as less relatable than Countess. Her name was Kim. Thank you.
To Black radio stations in my house. If you lived in Atlanta in the 2000s, you will know that V103 and 95.5 The Beat only played Black music, and those were the only channels that my family watched. Especially if you were listening to V103 with Frank and Wanda, you were definitely Black, okay? But that didn't matter. The actual culture that I had didn't seem to matter because they didn't like that I liked to read fantasy novels and I liked to watch anime. That was a turnoff to a lot of Black people. They felt like they couldn't relate to that. I've said this before.
I mean, they, as well as you, should be focused more on what y'all have in common than what y'all don't have in common. You're a dynamic being, unlike most Black people, unfortunately, meaning that you have like a set of diverse interests. Some of them they can relate to, some of them they can't. So just focus on what they can relate to. Why would you even bring it up? In other words, like, why would you even bring up anime and stuff like that, knowing that that's not their thing? I don't get it. Like my friends, who are into sports, they didn't really bring that up around me, and I didn't bring up some of the nerd stuff that I was into around them because it's not really something we have in common. So it's not a conversation that they can participate in.
In other videos, but I feel like a lot of Black kids are forced to grow up very early because I think the parents put them in mature situations a lot earlier than a lot of, I would say, white parents. And I just don't think that they get to be kids for as
they get to be kids until they're 50. She got that one wrong. Being placed in an adult situation doesn't mean that you become an adult. If anything, the reason why you were placed in an adult situation because the adults who should be the adults in that situation are behaving like kids. What you're seeing is your mama behaving like a kid. And you grow up and you behave the same. They're not adults.
this long. They were going through their puberty, adulthood transition way before I was. And not only that, but I just was like, I liked being a kid and I liked doing kid things. So I got teased for, like I said, reading books. I got teased for drawing. I used to like to draw characters. But I think mostly what got people was the way that I spoke. And I tried my best, bitch, to change it. I went from calling my mom to mama. I would say it like very black. My favorite movie in high school was ATL with T.I. and Lauren Lennon. That was my favorite movie. And I still have a lot of love for that movie. What You Know is still one of my favorite songs. But that's the other thing, bitch. The top 5 of my favorite songs are all by Black people. That's my culture.
Now, that it's funny that she brought that movie up, because in that movie you had T.I.'s character, who, though he wasn't like practicing hood as his brother was going down that path, he wasn't like down that path. He was still just like a skate rink dude who worked as a janitor, but you know, he did maintain that T.I. swag that made him rich. Nevertheless, in his crew, you had like a bunch of dudes with very diverse things going on. Like one of them was on his way to Harvard. You know, another one, you know, he was from the East Coast, so his vernacular was a lot different. You know, he was from New York, so his vernacular was a lot different. They were different, and you know, they didn't really give each other too much flack, nor did they you know, ostracize anybody for being different in that way. So, and this is your favorite show. So what I'm saying is, I'm wondering why her favorite movie was one where you had 4 dudes who wasn't afraid to be themselves around each other. Now, don't get me wrong, like dude didn't really talk about Harvard to, you know, his friends who was a janitor, but and like to write cartoons, like to illustrate cartoons. I mean, he didn't. That wasn't like the main topic of conversation, you know. Nor was dude's desire to make gangsta grills a conversation to the dude that went to Harvard. But still, they were themselves around each other. Now, if you flip that to Laura London's character, and this is just a difference between men and women, especially as it's pronounced in high school and junior high. It was completely different. Like she just, like you, she just completely changed her persona, you know, to be with or appeal to Ti. And I don't think that she know, and I don't think that you did. Well, I know that you didn't know the same way that, and you probably didn't realize this until later, or you probably never realized this until you watched my show. But he liked her anyway. Like if she had been like, you know, yeah, I'm from the rich part of Atlanta. I just like, you know, I just enjoy the company of my girls. Those twins could get it when they got older, of course. I seen the picture. You know, like no, I actually go to this private school, and you know, and my dad bought me this car, and I don't have to steal my clothes, you know, my name brand stuff. What is he gonna do? Not hit it? Like, no, people really don't. You know, especially because Laura London was cute, and you know, it's he wouldn't have cared. Some black people are surprisingly more receptive to people being themselves than they should. And I think that you trying to be something other than what you were is really what repulsed them. And it's really what ranked you in a negative way.
Culture. It just is my culture. There is no proving it. I've had to learn to code switch around Black people to make Black people feel comfortable with me. A lot of times it'll be Black women.
That made them feel less comfortable. You think they don't know you're code switching? They know you're code switching. And incidentally, when a black person code switch for white people, they know you're code switching too. Especially when you're doing it for a professional gain. They know exactly what you're doing, and it's not working to your advantage. Wait, what? Tina Shay, Chloe Bailey, and her are triplets. Oh, is that what it is? Oh, I didn't even see the Chloe Bailey and her. You're right. Dang, you're right. So, and I called her cute earlier. So, in addition to the personality, um, it is clear that I have a type. For those of you who are new here, subscribe. And y'all know that Chloe Bailey is my type, physically speaking. I don't know enough about her personality because she has to put on a persona for her career, but definitely physically, she's my type. So yeah, I didn't even make that connection. That's odd.
Women especially, but a black woman will say something about my hair, say, oh, I like your hair. And I'll be like, oh, thank you. Especially if she says the word locks. Oh, I like your locks. Then I definitely will be like, gotta talk to her in AABE. And it'll be a nice experience. I just hate feeling like I have to do that in order to get through the interaction. Just as much as I don't like having a code switch for white people because I have red locks. A lot of people automatically assume that I'm a certain level of blackness, which makes me feel great because I'm like, I could just talk so that when I talk, they're thinking I'm gonna be somewhere here with the blackness, but when I talk, I'm actually somewhere like here. And they're like pleasantly surprised. Oh, you can see it in their face, the relief when I actually sound more like them than they thought that I was going to sound. And it's really funny. But with black people, I think the hair actually helps a lot doing half of the work of what they're going to expect because they see the red locks and they also think that I'm going to be here. But instead of me being here and them being disappointed, I just meet them there. I meet every black person where they're at. And I think it is a trauma response from being called an Oreo. You might be thinking like, girl, it's not that deep. Okay, maybe it's not that deep for you. I swear, when people say something that really bothers me is not that deep, it just makes me want to impale them with this pin and be like, well, it's not that deep, bitch. I'm just kidding. I'm not a violent person. I've never been in a fight in my life. Obviously, I grew up in the suburbs. But yeah, I would love for it to not be that deep. I think it would have been different if things had ever changed. But once I got into
I didn't know that people that grew up in the suburbs never been in a fight. Because I didn't grow up in the suburbs. So I don't know. All I know is from TV, and I just assume that every now and again, Biff would take it too far and George McFly had to put those nerd hands on him. I don't know. I never really thought about it. I just assumed that they were much like us, but wealthier.
college, bitch, people were still treating me like that. I didn't hate college, but I hate how being in college made me feel about myself. I still to this day do not feel like I could just talk to a black person in my regular voice and them in their head not think somewhere, why does she sound like that? Like I said, people be expecting up here and I be coming here, and that's just not enough. If this is white, because obviously white is the opposite of black. Duh. Don't you know that there are only two races? Okay. Race is binary. But I was going to say, I guess that means I'm racially non-binary, but no. But if white is here and black is here, then obviously I'm somewhere here. Okay. Obviously. The reality is I'm probably somewhere like over here. Don't categorize me. All right. So I found this little excerpt to read from Affinity magazine and I thought it was interesting. They're saying an Oreo is a kid who listens to Coldplay instead of Kodak Black. I used to listen to Kodak Black. Who reads Harry Potter instead of playing 2K. I read Harry Potter.
Why in the hell did you listen to Kodak Black? I have never heard a music thing. I have never heard one note of that dude's music. I refuse to listen to music of anybody who looks like Flavor Flav, and that includes Lil Wayne. I refuse. I could look at him, well, Lil Jon, but that was funny. it was funny because Dave Chappelle did that whole skit like, "Yay!" That was funny. So I listened to that. But Kodak Black on the dance floor grabbed his mama's ass. So after that, I'm like, you know something? I don't need to hear. First of all, I don't listen to modern music. That's something I don't do. But after that, I was like, I don't want to hear anything this dude got to say. Once you start grabbing your mama's ass and then double downing on it and trying to justify it, once you do that, oh, it's a wrap. It is a wrap. Everything you do is wrong. You could be like the incarnation of Tupac, and I doubt he grabbed his mama's ass. Like, that is, somebody said he's a cancer. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, good music don't come from mama ass grabbers. I just have, why did you listen to that to fit in? I hope not. They got you listening to some crap by a mama ass grabber.
Potter, read all the Harry Potters, watched all the movies. Wants to study chemistry instead of pursuing an athletic scholarship. Do you want better? Got a fine arts degree so I could grow up to become a nothing. Is referred to as an Oreo bounty. What the hell is bounty? Are you talking about the paper towels? No, I'm gonna have to look that up. Or coconut. Girl, a bounty is a chocolate that looks like a fucking Mounds bar, where it's coconut on the inside and chocolate on the outside. It looks delicious. At least they're calling us.
I don't like you either. You are different, and I'm a nerd speaking. I shouldn't say I don't like you. I'm just tongue in cheek, but but really, that looks delicious to you. That looks delicious to you. Listen, I don't eat coconuts, and not because I'm allergic or anything, but because the crap is nasty. And the worst place that it should be is in a candy bar. That's why you didn't even know it existed. You didn't even know that particular candy bar existed because it tastes like crap to everybody else in the world, and they don't have like enough money to advertise it to people. Like, I don't even think Mounds is like sold in every place where regular Snickers and Milky Ways are sold. Like, you are unique. In coconuts is awesome. All right, don't get timed out. Listen, you're different. You're different, and that's okay. That's okay. Like if I was a guy courting you, I'm not gonna say, "Ooh, you like coconuts," and say, "Oh no, I'm not messing with this Oreo." That's stupid. But but real talk, that is a very different thing because these are not popular candies. If you gave that out at Halloween, kids would just throw it at you like, like, did you just give me a bounty bar? Yeah, your taste in candy is trash. Mounds are incomplete almond joy. That's like saying a Milky Way is an incomplete Snicker. But they're both nasty because they're just chocolate and coconuts. At least a Three Musketeers is nougat, whatever nougat is. Yeah, exactly. Listen, some people are just different. Some people get pineapples on pizza, and it's okay. Now, if we go half on a pizza and your pineapple touch mine, then we got problems. But some people it's just different, and that's okay. And I don't know why the people around you, the black people around you, didn't embrace your differences because it's really not that deep. Um, but just get the pineapples on your pizza. I've been dealing with black people my whole life. It's as serious as you make it. It's as serious as you make it. Somebody said pineapple. I know it's nasty. I know it's nasty. And listen, and here's another thing that a person like her probably have a difficult time understanding. Not really growing up surrounded by it. We have a way of down putting each other for fun. I know because I used to be the best at it in junior high. It was the only thing I did. It was the only thing I was good at, but it was the only thing that I was good at that drew a crowd in junior high. I was good at math and science too. I was in Mesa and stuff, science fairs, but these didn't really draw a crowd, except for the parents who were forced to be there at the science fairs. But it didn't really draw a crowd, like the basketball team did, except when I was playing a dozen, capping, whatever you wanted to call it. When I was roasting the next dude, and it was all love. But a person who's trying to fit in and then get roasted, I could see why they would take that as, oh, I gotta change it up and I gotta do this, I gotta do this. I could see why it can come off as intimidating. I can't. But sweetie, just be yourself.
Delicious things. It also says the reason why this is damaging is because it means that some Black children are coaxed into pretending to enjoy things they don't, which means that their true ambitions and interests aren't fully explored. This creates a lack of diversification within Black communities and can, along with facts such as racial prejudice and an imbalanced education system, be partially responsible for the lack of Black lawyers, the lack of Black physicians, and the lack of Black CEOs in the US. I read a couple of articles about Oreos.
I don't think that I do think that that's a problem. And that's because the overall culture is complacent with mediocrity. But I don't think that that would-be lawyers are being held back because of, in order to fit into Black culture. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, because that's the entire premise behind the movie Good Will Hunting. Where you had this extraordinarily mathematically gifted janitor at Harvard or MIT one, and he wanted to be a janitor because he wanted to be a laborer because his friends were laborers, and Ben Affleck and all of that. So he was missing his opportunity. I don't know how often that happens. I truly don't. That would be something worth exploring.
vibe that I've been getting so far is that it sounds like the audience is white people and telling white people why calling Black people an Oreo is offensive. I've not ever in my life had a white person call me an Oreo. That is something that only happens within the Black community. Just like I've never heard a white person call someone an African booty scratcher. That's an African American term.
They still call that?
I told my white friend that
They still call that. They still call people that. She's younger than me, but I remember hearing that a long time ago. But we didn't even call Africans that. It's funny. In fact, now that I think about it, that was one of those schoolyard insults that you really don't know what it means, but you just call them that when you're really out of when you don't have like a direct insult, like like this person comes to school perfect, they're handsome, they're their parents gave them money, so they got the big allowances and stuff, and and they get decent grades, they never did anything to embarrass themselves. So if you're just out of stuff to roast them on, you just say something like African booty scratcher, so I don't think that was even like something we called African. I don't know where that came from, but I do remember that. Was I ever called it? Probably, but that was just kind of like a generic cap. But yes, coming from a white person, that would be a race thing. They don't have to be told that would be like in a whole different category of offensive. And also, if it was ever used from a Black American to an African, I don't want to say African American, but an immigrant from Africa, or a non-FBA, and I hate using that term, but a non-FBA African, then yeah, that is definitely ethnically insensitive. Yeah, I don't think that it was ever used as an ethnically derogatory thing. It was just like one of those, you're getting roasted and you got to say something type deals. Shout out to the African booty scratchers. I mean, if you African and it itch, I mean, I'm an African American booty scratcher. I mean, whose booty never itched? Like, I mean, every now and again you gotta scratch your ass. Like, it's not even an insult. You could say you like, hey, you white booty scratcher. Everybody scratches their booty.
that I was called an Oreo when I was a kid, and she thought it meant that I was mixed. She still does. I've told her several times, I am not mixed. I think.
Oh wait, did somebody call her an African booty scratcher, and it just stuck with her? I hope that somebody didn't call her African booty scratcher because she brought that up, and it just stuck with her. Sweetie, it likely wasn't that serious. And if they were a kid saying that, then they probably wanted to scratch it for you.
I think it's confusing her because I tell her I'm not mixed, but then I always say I'm an Oreo, and she doesn't realize that Oreo is just a black person who acts white and not a mixed person. But that just goes to show you that white people don't really know that term. But it mentions here some of that
Well, why
being
would
one
they?
of the good
Like,
ones.
why would they care? Why would they know or care about what's going on in whiteness? My babysitter was either white or Mexican. She had a huge crush on Ronald DeVoe, who was in New Edition at the time. And she also watched a show. I don't know if it was a show or a music video about a group of white people called the Monkeys. And it was like, hey, hey, we're the Monkeys. And I see it because she was my babysitter and it came on the TV. And I didn't understand it. I was like, and that's okay because that's it's not my thing. She don't need to know what Oreo is. It's really none of her business. Just like whatever the monkeys are is none of my business.
My God, I get that vibe from white people all the time. In fact, some of my racist white friends, yes, I have racist white friends. I made a whole video on how to keep your racist friends because how are they supposed to learn if I don't teach them? But there's definitely.
Why in the world do you want to keep racist friends? Okay, it does seem like she has a bad habit of trying to force herself into places where she's not embraced as herself, which is not healthy in my opinion. Have I had racist friends? I've been in study groups with people who definitely were on the borderline, yes. I also had this neighbor. She was very, very, very old. Um, and of course she's not with us anymore, but she was out there. She was definitely, it is it's probably because she was old and alone, but she was like, she used to call me one of the good ones. She was on some Karen stuff, and she was saying that the Russians were hiring black people to mess up the neighborhood so they can get her home at a discount. I just wrote her off as just an old white woman. And every now and again, she would do stuff like lock herself out, and she'd come to me, like, game changer. I locked myself out the thing. I locked my, she always had like old people problems that she needed help with, that she'd come to me for. And she gave me peanut brittle. Like, what the hell is that? So you gotta find yourself in circle with people who are just on that ish. It's not, but am I trying to be your friend? Nah. But am I like a person who have enough respect for the elders to help when I can? Yeah. So that's where it's like I want to see that video she did.
Something that I resonate with in here, where it says the reason why it's damaging is because it means that some Black children are coaxed into pretending to enjoy things that they don't, which means that their true ambitions and interests aren't fully explored. Do you know how much stuff I did in my life for Black people to like me just because it was a Black thing to do when I probably was not even interested in it in the first place? I was watching a video today. She's actually not Black. I'm actually going to make my own separate video on it, but it's a video by someone called Doothy, right? Doothy? Get out my notes. Yes, Doothy. Her video is called Congrats, You Have No Personality. And I wanted to make a video about it, about being cringe versus being boring. And something that I noticed is that something about Black culture is it is better to be boring than to be cringe. I want to make a whole separate video on that, but that is definitely the vibe that I got from being a person within Black culture. I really withheld a lot of my creativity, a lot of my individual thoughts. I wasn't successful at it, but I really tried to withhold the truer parts, the more authentic parts of myself, because I wanted Black people, specifically Black people, to accept me. I didn't want them to think that I was weird. Ultimately, I will say, I think I was trying to be friends with the wrong Black people, but I think
that's
that
part of it too.
Overall, the majority of Black people.
I think that that's part of it too. I think that if she went to like a HBCU or something like that, she would have found her tribe. But no matter what, they're not going to be friends with you if you're not being yourself. I mean, I'm not saying, force your personality on somebody, but I am saying, like, okay, think about how you would feel, right? A guy who's interested in you because you look like Chloe Bailey, he's like, okay, she has this whole Chloe Bailey thing going on, and she likes K-pop, and and then they just go out and listen to a bunch of K-pop, and then they say, hey, so what do you think about this K-pop person? And come on now, and after talking to that person, it'll be apparent that this is not who they are. This is what they are molding themselves into for your company. How would you feel about that person? So to put it in that perspective, because that is probably how you're coming off to Black people. Like they come to you, what's your name? Hold on. Bree. They come to you like, hey, Bree, did you catch that K-pop song on the radio? Like, I mean, come on now. Hey, Bree, I'm 3 chapters in that Harry Potter book. What do you think of Harry Potter? Like, really, would you be interested in a person like that? Or would you prefer a person who is himself, even though himself don't have those particular things in common with you? Or even if that person doesn't have anything in common with you, but he's still being himself. Like, I mean, which would you prefer? I mean, so yeah. Anyway.
People still have some biases towards people who talk like me and think like me, really, that makes it hard for me to feel like they would accept me in my friendship. Like I said, I gave up on trying to be friends with Black people when I was 26 years old. That's not to say I don't have Black friends. I do have Black friends. It's just I no longer try to conform who I am to fit into what I think a Black person needs to see. Honestly, there will be some Black people that are cool cool with me on the internet, but actually are not cool with me in real life. There are a couple of people now who I know watch my stories, they'll comment on my stories. And I'm like, you don't talk to me in real life. What are you doing? We're friends online when we're in this vacuum, and all the quirky, weird shit that I do feels like it's a.
That's not you. That's not a you thing, and that's not even a Black thing. That is just a people thing. That's just a modern people thing. You know, we are really closed off from others. And this is from somebody who travels internationally. Americans in particular, they're really closed off, you know. Yeah, it's hard to explain. Like in many places in the world, you can make friends off of somebody that you just met. Like, you know, you meet somebody, you have a cool conversation with them, and you know, next thing you know, they say, "Hey, you know, I'm having a get together. You should come." That is not true in America. That's something that Americans just don't do. I don't know why that is. Maybe we're taught to be cautious of each other. Who knows? But yeah, um, people enjoying you from the safety of the internet and not willing to put you into their own personal circles, um, is not, once again, that's not a Black thing. That's not because you are considered eccentric amongst Black people or anything like that. That's an American thing. I think that you probably have that concern with white people as well. Also, you admit that you're an introvert, so you probably have a closed circle yourself.
Character on TV, but when you're interacting with me in real life, you think I'm cringe and you don't really want to talk to me or acknowledge me. And I hate that shit. That shit makes me want to fucking. Anyway,
Okay,
it's not white people calling people Oreos. It's other Black people. I just feel
this is
like,
true.
why do I even have to say that? That should be so obvious. I feel like these few articles I've been reading are being so disingenuous. I hate that. Stop victimizing Black people when Black people victimize each other. Stop adding
Agreed.
that extra layer, because you're making the actual racism and victimization of Black people by other races, including white people, including everybody, because everybody has issues with Black people and Black culture. So times when that actually happens feels flat, because we're having to combat these extra trumped up charges you don't put on here, that the real shit gets buried underneath. Nobody's calling Black people Oreos, but other.
Okay, so y'all saying stuff in the chat room. Somebody said she's nuts. Somebody else said that this woman is weird. Um, yes, yes to both, and I like that. I like that. There's nothing I like more than to embrace a Black woman who is not afraid to be weird. Is not afraid to be herself and is not afraid to be weird. If she was here trying to be normal, I'd have no interest. But she's actually here being her weird self, and it's something I appreciate. So when you think about the people that I talk about, as far as my internet crushes go, they're all weird. You know, the woman who I talked about yesterday, who was dressed in a Darth Maul costume just because it was March 8th. That's weird, and I like it. Same with Kelly Stamps. Kelly Stamps is weird, and I like her too. Now, these, of course, are women who are physically appealing. That goes a long way, but um, hey, call it what you want. I like weird. My first internet crush was the girl who lived in her van and talked to her pet albino snake. That's weird. I mean, you know, hey, I like weird. What are you gonna do? I mean, you know, that's what I said. If you're a woman and you're weird, be your weird self.
other Black people. So talk to them. To keep going with this article on Affinity magazine, they say what's even more reprehensible is the fact that this suppression of potential within Black communities comes predominantly from Black people themselves. I read a few that was definitely making it seem like white people were calling Black people Oreos. It often derives from an assumption that those who attempt to reach beyond the confines of society's understanding of a Black person are sellouts or an uppity Black. That's a very dated term. To be Black, according to some, you have to be entirely down with the struggle. You shouldn't see life beyond the estate or the hood unless it's through means of entertainment, music, or sports. To want to be a writer, which I am, a lawyer, or God forbid, a police officer, you're fruity or weird. I don't know. I feel, are people being called fruity? I guess maybe the men are. I don't know. To strip someone of their Blackness treats us as though we're commodities, something batch made and generic that if you don't fit a particular set of qualities, then you're not really Black, are you? As for wanting to be a part of the hood, I wanted to be from the hood so bad. I'm from a city in Georgia called Decatur.
Decatur wears great.
Okay. Sweetie, I'm from the hood. You don't want to be from the hood. People want to be from the hood the way kids want to live in Disneyland. Like, it seems like a good idea until it actually happens, until you get that roach in your cereal. That's when the hood gets real. I was talking about this earlier. Listen, you watch Good Times and you think it's cute, but have you ever smelled an elevator in the Cabrini Breens projects in Chicago or something like that? Have you ever smelled one of those elevators? Well, I haven't either, but I happen to know that I wouldn't like it. I happen to know that if every day I had to get in an elevator that's filled with alcoholic piss, I would go completely insane. I don't like California hoods. There's nothing good about it. It seems good when somebody makes that music, the ghetto, talking about the ghetto. Like, it sounds good until you actually live in it. And the people weren't bad. I know that when people think about it, they think that the worst part is probably dealing with the violence and the other people. The worst part is the poverty. That is the worst part. Like, that's the beginning and end of it. That's the worst part of the hood is the poverty. I can't stress that enough. And even though people's like, oh yeah, but like, you look at Menace to Society, and dude had the 5.0 Mustang, and he had the rims that he stole from somebody. But really, he was living with his grandma and grandpa and in a hood apartment. Yeah, they worked all their lives to live in that, a project apartment like that. There's nothing fun about that. Like, that aspects is nothing fun about. So, and then, like, if you come from a place like Oakland, they have like the sideshows and stuff. Yeah, but that's not necessarily a hood thing. Everybody's privy to go there. Like, you don't have to be from the hood to actually go to the sideshow and stuff like that. You really don't have to be from the hood to be invited to a cookout or even have your own cookout. So, yeah, it's glamorized, but there's nothing fun about poverty.
When I was young, I don't know what the situation is now. Decatur's hella.
In fact, a movie night. I was talking to Marco, and so when I was in Colombia, I went on a tour. Went on a tour of the hood, and I'm using quotation marks. I know y'all can't see me. I'm using air quotes of the hood, but it was really like an aspect of the hood that was made for tourists. So when I got there, and I got the videos on my phone, when I got there, there was a kid rapping and stuff. You know, he did this whole thing where it's like, okay, I want you to say 3 words, and then he had the whole group say 3 words, and he made a rap that included all the 3 words in every, that everybody said, and which is cool. And then you had the people who did this whole dance routine, this capoeira dance routine, showing off extraordinary athleticism, in my opinion. And then they had this particular type of ice cream that was good, and they had this like court area. So it was fun. It was a good place to visit as a tour. And it's on a hill, so the view was spectacular. Would I want to live in a Colombian favela? No. Come on now, don't be naive. Don't say, oh, this is spectacular, I want to live here. Like, whoa. I mean, this is great and all, but I don't want to live in foreign poverty.
Gentrified now, but when I was born, that was like the hood. And I remember one time I brought my birth certificate into school for a project that we had to do, and a Black kid looked at my birth certificate. He was like, "You're from Decatur?" And that was the first time I realized that being from a Black place was going to gain me bonus points with Black people.
Holy crap.
So I tried to squeeze it in whenever I could. I would be like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Decatur."
Decatur was great.
Because I wanted to fit in. I just thought the best place to fit in was somewhere where I would be a shoo-in. And I'm like, I'm Black, they're Black, I listen to rap, they listen to rap, I watch 106 in Park, they watch 106 in Park, it'll be great. Bitch, no, that's not enough. I didn't have the mannerisms, and I watched way too much cartoons. I know what I should have done to bridge the gap, because I saw a girl do it. There was a girl, she was really shy, just like me. She used to read books. Me and her actually talked one day because we found out we were reading the same book. What she did is she started dating one of the popular Black guys. And this man was butt ugly. Through dating him, she got to know the other Black people, and they got to be familiar with her. And by the time we were seniors, this bitch was popular. And I was like, damn, I should have did that shit. If I really wanted to be popular, should have just used some guy. Would I have done it? I think
I'm pausing because, like, what the hell? So basically, she paid the cost of entry. Okay. What they did was they sold acceptance to you. And Black people have a habit of doing this. They have an awful habit of doing this. Like, oh no, if you want to be down with me, you have to blah 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 blah. It's like a initiation to a fraternity or something like that. And her initiation was she had to give up that box to a ugly nigga. That was her friend's initiation. Now, and she was considering doing that. Like, okay, it makes you extraordinarily exploitable. Listen, they only have power on the people that want to be down like that. For example, right? Apparently in LA, if you are a rapper or entertainer of some type, they'll try to make you check in. Like Suge Knight will try to make you check in. Like, hey, you got to check in if you want to do your music in LA. You got to check in, Ray J. You got to check in. They Vanilla Ice. You got to check in. that's their way of saying, like, listen, if you want to be seen as embraced by this particular cohort, you have to pay a toll. And they tried to do that with Will Smith. Weird ass nigga. They tried to do that with Will Smith back when he was doing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And Will Smith, what did he do? He called those people. He called those people. He called those Bin Laden eye shooting people. Like, now what? Like, check in. The deputy director of the FBI, watch my show, and you talk about check in with some local hood niggas. What the hell? They only, and then of course when he had them people call Suge back, he never heard from him again. See, it only works when you try to play their game by their rules, as your friend did.
I probably wouldn't have. I can do a terrible thing in the moment, but I couldn't do something terrible premeditated. Back to the task at hand, because I got so distracted. But it definitely makes you feel like you don't want to pursue academic pursuits. You don't want to make too good of grades in school. You don't want to look like you're trying too hard. There was a
Testing. Can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me now? Testing. Still no sound? Hello? Okay, it's sound now. All right, my bad. But no, I was talking about how I think it's different for women than it is for men, or girls than it is for boys. But even the depictions that Hollywood has for young black male interaction, the it's been diverse and it's been dynamic. Like, you look at the cast of movies like Atlanta, ATL, they couldn't be any more different. Like, no, I mean ATL. Like, they couldn't be any more different, as far as the four young men in that. And then you look at shows like The Wire, and which in season 4 started to follow the four boys: Michael, Daquan, Naaman, and Randy. And these were very different dudes. They were and they were friends. Now, Daquan had challenges that was uniquely his, in the sense that he had very bad parents, and as a result, he was he smelled funny, and or he just smelled bad, I should say. And he was poor, he couldn't fight, and so he definitely had problems. I'm under the impression, this goes just from what I see in media, that he actually would fare better amongst blacks than he would if he were a white kid in that same situation. So let's just put it on the white side for example. Like, they take kids like Daquan and they bully them. Like, I think it was the Breakfast Club or something. He's like, I taped his buns together. Like, I taped his ass cheeks I was like, what the hell? So it seems like they're worse with it. Yeah, Daquan, he didn't have the best, but it seemed like he had it better than he would have. Like, they were still his friends, like, in spite of everything, they were still his friends. Until life got real and he found himself on his own. Same with Randy. But I don't think if any of those kids had a 4.0, they would have stopped being his friends. It's like, really? You was cool with him when he was smelly, but you wasn't cool with him when you seen all those A's? So I don't know if it's different for women or if it's a misconception. And I don't think it's different for women. I mean, because they're always bragging like most educated and crap like that. So I don't know. Something else is going on. Hit the like button.
An idea that Duthie was talking about, and I'm going to probably make it into one of my other videos. It's called It's Not That Deep. My little brother is far more integrated into Black culture. My little brother is 16, 17. He's firmly within Gen Z, and he is living the life that I would have loved to have lived. His grades are not good, and we're the opposite in that regard. Where he is flourishing socially, he is not doing so well academically, and he puts a lot of weight on social interactions and things in a way that I couldn't, because I just didn't have that option. It was really hard for me to make friends. Not only was I called an Oreo, but I was sheltered, so I couldn't really go anywhere or do anything anyway. But you don't want to do something because it's lame, You're like, I don't want to take school too seriously. I don't want to take this hobby that I'm into too seriously because I don't want people to make fun of me because it's not that deep. Okay, I found another article where it says terms like coconut and Oreo, meaning brown on the outside, white on the inside. I'm like, wait a minute. And I see it's from stylist.co.uk. So apparently people in the UK are being called coconuts. And I assume, what's that other thing I said? Mounds bars. That's not it. Bounties. Being called coconuts and bounties across the pond. Sorry, I just realized I have strawberries on the stove. Let me go get my strawberries burned. I'm so sad. I feel it ultimately.
Did y'all hear that? Well, I'm glad that you are embracing your weirdness. I am. Why in the hell do you have strawberries on the stove? Somebody in the chat room tell me, why would a person have strawberries on the stove? I'll never forget, my mom was trying to be like grandma and make banana pudding. And she put it in the oven. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I tasted it and I knew something was wrong. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Making syrup. That's why. Making strawberry syrup? That's how you make it? Okay. Live and learn. All right.
Boils down to this statement right here. I'm not Black enough for my community, but I'm still an outsider with my white friends. I live in downtown Atlanta.
Preserves, jelly. Well, what do you mean? Like, when I look at jelly, when I look at strawberry jelly or jam, it's cold. I don't know how to make jelly. I'm sure she has good reason. I'm just saying it's different. It's different. And it's not off-putting. I'm a Black man and it's not off-putting. It's just like, wait, strawberry on the stove?
I live in a very diverse area, so I have all types of friends. I have friends from all ethnicities. But if you live in a place or an area where everybody is very segregated, then I can only imagine how hard that must be. I'm sure that's also part of the reason why I'm single. Even though Atlanta is very diverse in terms of making friends, there's definitely the feeling that Atlanta is very Black. It's a great place for people who are Black and are of Black culture. I feel like there's a lot more diversity within whiteness, and I envy that shit. Like, I feel like I would have been found my tribe if I was white. I feel like white people really get the freedom because they're the majority. They really get the freedom to like be who they want to be. And also, thing about white culture that I love.
Okay. I think you got to rethink about what you just said there, because you're saying that white people have the freedom to be themselves because they're majority, but in Atlanta where you live, blacks are the majority. So you got to, I think that in that, I think that you're in a cage that you've invented yourself. You do have the freedom of being yourself. You just don't understand that you do.
Of really is that they encourage people to be individuals and to be unique, and that is not what I
Do you need
experience inside
encouragement
of
to do
Black
that?
culture. I experience a lot of pressure to conform and being outcasted when I did not. Does that make me resent my own people? Bitch, I'm gonna be honest, yes. Oh my God, I'm so frustrated. Do I put white people on this pedestal? No. But I think that there are some things that we can definitely learn from them. Like, it's okay to have diverse interests and it's okay to be weird. I think maybe just we're a minority. And when you are the black sheep, you're a minority within a minority. I'm at an age right now where I genuinely think it's odd to just be friends with somebody just based off of the fact that you share a race. That is not enough for me to be friends with somebody anymore. Now I choose all of my friends based off of, do I like them? Do they make me happy?
Okay. Wow, that's complicated. I do think that you shouldn't be making friends based on race. I agree with that. I do feel that there should be a certain level of familiarity and tolerance that's just given to a person because they're black, and that's okay. There are people in my life who found their way in my circle who, if they were not black, I wouldn't deal with them at all. And that's not just like a recent phenomenon. That's something that has been like that into perpetuity. Um, like for as long as I can remember. And that really comes from, well, for okay. I don't think that okay. She has my mind all over the place. The way you're behaving now is the way that you perceived them behaving towards you your entire life. This whole, I don't have to embrace you just because you're black. I'm going to embrace you based on how much our personalities overlap and our interests overlap. So you found yourself dealing with that your whole life, and now you're dishing that out. Like, you're saying that it would be nice if the black people around me when I was growing up they were to be more of a mindset of, okay, I understand that this girl is different, but she is black, so welcome to the cookout. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. You wish black people were more like, that we were more accepting of different people. But now you're saying that you don't accept a black person if they're different. You see yourself now? But no, I mean, you got to be willing to embrace a black person's differences. And I'm not saying like make them your best friend and, introduce the dude that, like to burn straws in front of people, like, to your kids. I'm not saying anything weird like that. But no, it's like, okay, here's this person, he or she is black, they're a little quirky, they put strawberries on a stove and they eat Mounds bars and stuff like that. I mean, it's not, it's just, but it's my people. They don't have to be your best friend, but it's my people. Take Kevin Samuels, for example. Rest in peace. um well, Kevin Samuels is a little different because he found his tribe. His fascination with fashion and dress, and suits and things like that is definitely not mainstream black, but in his fraternity that is commonplace. Ask me how I know. So that would probably be a bad example, but he's definitely not mainstream black. But he still remained himself, and he was embraced by a lot of people. Once again, may he rest in peace. Black people, as a result of him being him. What I'm saying is, you can't expect black people to embrace you as a different person if you're not willing to embrace different people.
Do they bring me joy and things like that? And also there's this sense that, yes, I'm an outsider with white people or any other race, really. It's like I said, I don't know why people make race a binary, but at least I know where I stand with them. I never got to the point where I felt accepted by black people. That never happened. I'm not invited to the cookout. That is not an exaggeration. I don't think I've ever been to a cookout. I can't relate. I don't feel valued within black culture, but I also don't feel valued by anybody. I don't feel like anybody values the person that I am. And that's why I say I'd never found my
Cookouts are typically a family thing. It seems like your parents weren't invited to the cookout. Um, Also, you probably didn't have a black boyfriend long enough to get invited to his family cookouts. I mean, there are the occasion where people just get together and have cookouts with their friends. That's far less common. Yeah, it's not. You're not missing much.
tribe. I really just feel like I'm adrift in the sea of honestly what is lonely. It's very lonely to be an Oreo, and it sucks because we're humans. We're meant to be a part of a tribe. We are meant to interact with other people. We're not meant to be alone. Okay, so I see a coconut is someone who is Indian because they're brown on the outside. I'm reading something where it says these stereotypes prevent people from being their true authentic selves because they feel as though they have to fit into a very narrow mold. And she spelled mold with a U. Ugh. Something that I do like that this article mentions is if you've been on the receiving end of these racial slurs, Dr. Misty offers a reminder that they say a lot more about the person who is dishing them out than you. They're expressing discomfort because you're not acting in a way that they think you should. That is exactly what it is. You're making this other person feel uncomfortable with your you-ness. She says if you feel able to, she suggests calling them out and letting them know how their comments affected you. Don't do that.
Oh man, I was thinking of another example of this whole just be yourself and people are not going to trip as hard. And listen, this isn't me saying that she's overreacting. This is really me trying to understand how this affects the female because it's far different than the men. Remember the movie Menace to Society where you had Sharif and I mean, yeah, he was definitely different than his peers in the sense that he was different culturally and religiously and stuff like that. And he but he literally was invited to the cookout and he was unapologetically himself, like, and they would even say, like, if you don't get that Lakem Salam stuff out of here, that gets no play in this car. Like, I mean, he didn't internalize it and say, oh, black people don't love me. It was just like, hey, this is Sharif. He's different, but he's black, so we tolerate him standing guard at the cooler. So yeah, there's a balance that exists. And once again, I'm trying to think of like black female shows where they show them interacting on that level and in that way. So I could kind of understand what she's going through. But I do think that probably women are just bitches. And I think that that's at the crux of what she's saying. I think that at the like root of what she's saying, she's really much saying that black women are just bitches. That there is no Sharif. They don't make room for non-conformist black women. Like, black women that don't completely conform to the hoop earrings. And, it's funny she has hoop earrings on, but, like if you ain't Keisha, we ain't with you. Like, it seems like they're bitches. And maybe she's on to something. Like, I'm trying to remember, like, in high school, but you don't really know who's being ostracized. If there was a black girl being ostracized, I wouldn't even, like, how would I know? Because she's like not part of anything.
You will get bullied mercilessly if you did that. It really hurt my feelings when you called me an Oreo. No, don't do it. My advice would be double down, bitch. Be like, yeah, I am an Oreo. What, bitch? How many books did you read? Oh, I would so say that. Man, little Brianna would. I could help her out so much. So
If you really want to hurt their feelings, you say, yeah, I'm an Oreo. My father give me some for Christmas. Oh, what your daddy give you for Christmas? Oh, someone please call 911. But she's not gonna do that because black women are violent. She's not gonna. I remember I was talking to an Asian girl, right? And she had a black boyfriend. She was really attractive. I think she was like Laotian or something. And she was talking about all the crap that she got in high school from black girls and that his family gives her. And I was like, well, the next time they say something, just say you just mad because the hair that you buy grows out my scalp. Oh, I gave her like the perfect jab. But if she used it, they would have gave her the perfect uppercut. So don't. Because she was like 4'13". So don't do that. Don't do that when you're 80 pounds of Asian. Don't do that. But it would be nice if you could. But don't do that. That would be a nice jab, but they'll hit you with a nice uppercut. So don't do that. It still would have been a funny thing to say.
reading this story on, is it called Our Social Skills? I still don't know how to read the Reddit post names, the Reddit thread names. It says being an Oreo, being a black person who doesn't act act like the stereotypical Black person. I always feel like I need to change certain aspects of myself and make myself even more on top of my anxiety. And this applies to when I'm with both white and Black people, even though I feel like white people don't mind as much. Every single time I start to open to people and start revealing who I truly am, people say I am the whitest Black person they've ever met, even though I'm literally just being myself. I even have a separate Spotify playlist for me to show my Black music to other Black people so I don't face ridicule. I listen to quite a lot of Korean and Japanese music. Same. As a result, these days, I've started to isolate myself more in my house where I can just enjoy myself without ridicule. Anyone feel the same? Me, I definitely feel the same. God, my dog is being annoying. There's a person that says, same, technically Hispanic, but didn't grow up speaking Spanish and lived in diverse neighborhoods my entire life. I can only imagine what it must be like to be a Hispanic person that doesn't know Spanish. There's so much about Hispanic culture that revolves around speaking the language. So I can't even imagine how isolating that must feel. I've seen being an Oreo described as cultural homelessness, which, bitch, that resonates with me intensely. I definitely feel culturally homeless. I think
You know, um, it's funny that she mentioned the Spanish girl that don't speak Spanish. I had a neighbor one time ask me how his daughter, now at the time his daughter was like junior high, high school age. Actually, no, he asked me when she was younger. But and she had an older sister who was bilingual. But he asked me about his second daughter's um, how good is her English? Because he barely spoke English. He barely spoke English. In fact, I was his only friend that really more like neighbor, but I was his neighbor and friend that spoke English. And he just straight up asked me like, "How's her English?" I was like, "Yeah, her English is fine." He was like, "Oh, okay," because her Spanish isn't too good. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't have any way of knowing that." But she didn't seem like she had like social problems or anything. She just kind of just gravitated towards the standing culture. So I don't know. When she said that, it just kind of reminded me of her. Like, I don't think that a non-bilingual Mexican is gonna have too many problems. At least not in California. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's in Georgia and I'm in California.
the worst part is that I thought it was going to get better as I got older. And I think that if I had known that it was never going to change, I would have stopped trying so much earlier and I would have started working towards self-acceptance a lot sooner. I think that I always thought Black people were eventually going to start liking me because I was being a pick me for them. Eventually, I'll meet the right people. Normally, like I said, I've been saying this a few times. Normally, when people are talking about racism, and racism that Black people receive, it's always from white people. But literally, I've discovered through my various friend groups and people that I've been around, nobody respects Black people. They think that we're all beneath them, is what I've learned. That means the Hispanics, that means the Asians, all of them. Nobody really respects Black people, okay? But something.
Well, okay. No one really respects the functionality of adult Black culture, definitely. Um, no one really respects a group of people who are afraid to be themselves around other groups of people. And I'm not talking about this overly hood thing that Black people like to do. Where they're twerking randomly just to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just stupid. That's just a plea for attention. But bringing your issues to other communities that don't have them is not a good way to get respect. You're leading with your issues. You're leading like you was telling the person before. You're leading with the whole, an Oreo is this. It's like, why would they care? That's really not their business. Nobody's going to respect that. Don't lead with struggles. But no, it's good that she's come to that conclusion. And she should, and now she has come to the realization that the very thing that she's been embracing and that her brother is embracing, more successfully so, is not going to get you respect in adulthood. Because you didn't realize this in adulthood. You even said that your friend was with this with this ugly dude that was the most popular guy. So it's like, yeah, that's fine when you're in high school, but the world don't operate on blackness in adulthood. It doesn't. So maybe your brother is back in the wrong horse, and so were you. But nobody respects adults that behave like children. And unfortunately, that's what the dominant black culture appears to be right now.
Thing that I think is interesting, this idea that there are Black people who have spent so much time being called things like ghetto and ratchet and hood and being labeled these things that have deeply scarred them for enjoying the Black things that they do enjoy, that they feel like they have to protect that identity. And a lot of people have decided to protect that identity by doubling down on their Blackness. What, I'm ratchet? Yes, I am ratchet. Watch me twerk upside down on a wall. I've done that, and I still wasn't Black enough. Watch me rap some Megan Thee Stallion lyrics on top of a table. These are all things that I've seen.
Okay, she is spot on with this. This chick is wise and prophetic with that one. With the whole twerking thing, that is really Black women trying to force the culture upon people because they want their culture to be embraced and respected. So they're just, they're forcing it on people. And it's not that twerking is inherently a bad thing, but the reason that you're doing it in inappropriate places is because, you're forcing it. It's your way of trying to force it on people. And that's the same thing with the niggas who play their music loud in neighborhoods that obviously, don't welcome that type of thing. That's them trying to force their way of life on people. That's going to get you hated real quick.
In real life, but I definitely get that sense from a lot of Black people. And I think Black people are really defensive about their Black identity, which is very understandable. I know I've said a lot about how much it sucks to be an Oreo and how I hate it. And I wish that people would not make fun of people for being Oreos, but I get it. It comes from a place of, first of all humans are tribalistic. That's how we have existed for thousands of years. We're all very tribalistic, which just means we want everybody to be mostly the same. Most humans are conservative. We want people to be like us. We want people to exist like us and keep our traditions and things like that. Most people don't really want to do work when they meet new people or when they're interacting with people. So if somebody has to treat you differently than they treat everybody else, or if somebody has to have different expectations on how a situation or a conversation might go with you versus everybody else, that might frustrate them, right? So they're putting you in this difficult category. And then especially if you live in a country that's predominated by white people and white culture, here Black people are trying to have and enjoy and protect their culture when somebody who is inside of their group, their demographic, is acting in a way that the predominant privileged majority is acting. I could see how that would upset some people, and I could see how that would make people feel threatened. And I get it because I agreed with that for a very long time. For the longest time, I would rather have extricated the Oreo parts of my personality and just left the Black pulp that was left over and be accepted by my community than to force my community to just embrace me as I was. That's what old me would have preferred. The current me, I'm too far separate from, I think I'm just too far separate from culture now. When I turned 26, I effectively decided I'm going to stop trying to appease Black people. I just had enough. I remember there was a party that the Black people on my job had, and they invited everybody. They invited all my Latina friends, all the Latino people at my job, and they did not invite me. And so when I had a party at my house,
Let me guess. It was a Black female.
invited all my friends, which were predominantly Latina. I remember the next day or the next week, one of the Black girls who had thrown the party was like, I heard you had a little shindig at your house. Why didn't you invite me? And I said to her face, and this was at work in front of a group of people, I was like, when you had your party, you didn't invite me. So I just thought you didn't fuck with me like that. And she didn't have anything to say. And she walked out and I needed it for my soul. And I stopped trying to impress Black people. Like I said, everybody's racist towards Black people. It feels different when a culture that is not the one that you grew up with is isolating you, or I guess believe stereotypes about your culture, right? Versus when the culture that you've grown up in or raised in, identify the most with, is ostracizing you or isolating you or separating you. It feels different. Now, my friends are very diverse. I'm gonna be honest. I have a lot of white friends now, and they don't always get it. I can tell that they're patient with the things that they don't know. And I, in turn, are patient with the things that they don't know. And I appreciate that they respect me enough to want to be respectful to me. Most of my white friends don't say horrifically racist things in front of me. Sometimes if they let something slip, one of them is in particular is very young. She said quite a few ignorant things. And I just got to let her know, yo, you can't say that. In conclusion with this story.
Okay. I had to tell people stuff like that before. And it wasn't, first of all, most of them wasn't white. They were either immigrants or children of immigrants. I had to check them on that, which I didn't see anything wrong with, especially if they genuinely didn't know. You know, kind of like when Jackie Chan was like, "What's up, my nigga?" I mean, of course that scene, it's a scene in a movie, but you really gonna fight somebody over something like that? Like, of course they want to just show Jackie Chan kung fu fighting in a black pool hall and stuff like that, which was cool. But I mean, are Black people really like that? Like, you know, a person who has been in this country, you know, for 2.5 hours, and all he knows of the language is what he sees on TV and what Chris Tucker was just saying to everybody, like, and he just repeating what he just heard, and you gonna what, hit him with a pool cue? with a pool cue? Really? No, it's not that serious. Like, hey, you know, it's that's more of a internal thing. That's more of a us thing, you know. And you'll be surprised. People really only need to be told that once. Think about like the word jarhead as it pertains to Marines. That's something they call each other. I don't know what would happen if I called them that, because I don't know how they feel about civilians calling them jarheads, but I don't think that they would jump me. Like I mean, it's one of those things. Like, hey, I didn't know. I just heard him call you that. I thought that that's what y'all called each other, or you know, that's what you called a Marine. You know, if they say that's a us thing, civilians don't call us. Like, all right, my bad. You'll never hear that word from me again. It's kind of like going to Russia and finding out that the word Conrad is a slur. It's like, oh crap. Hey, I didn't know. It's a slur when it comes from like a non-Slavic person. I'm like, oh crap, my bad. You know, Conrad is really the only Russian word I know. So my bad, you know, and that's the response I got. But do I have like racist friends? Nah, nothing like that.
Story. I'm still on my own authentic self journey. I'm really finally just trying to release the shackles of being called an Oreo my entire life and letting that really affect me to the point where it's paralyzed me in certain areas of my life. I'm really discovering, who am I? there was so much about myself that I didn't realize wasn't authentic to me. It was all extra stuff that I had added to my personality during the period of my life when I was trying to be Black. And I didn't realize that it wasn't authentic to me until I really stopped and I thought, I'm like, am I doing this because I want to do this? Why am I actually doing this? It's been a great journey and I've really loved it. And I want to finish on a quote from our social skills in Reddit, in the Threadit. It's from a deleted user. It only got 3 upvotes, but I really like how this person worded it. If you made it this far, I just thought this would help any Black person out there who is struggling with their identity, struggling with feeling like an Oreo or like you're not being accepted by Black people. It says, our ancestors went through so much so we could have the right to be these Oreo people and explore
Agreed.
your own self-interest. And I'm like, girl, that's it. My last story.
Agreed. It does seem like the people around her, the people who choose to ostracize her, um, in addition, it does seem like they misinterpret what the ancestors were fighting for, because they look at it as the ancestors were fighting so you don't have to assimilate, and they feel that any form of appeared assimilation is going against what the ancestors fought for. But according to that quote, they were fighting for you have the ability to assimilate, if you choose to do so, and that's what freedom is. And this goes to the with the voting thing. And I'm not saying don't vote, but I'm just saying, like, if you are one of these people that's like, our people fought for the right to vote. It's like, well, they fought for the option to vote, not the obligation to do so. So you now have the option to do it. You're not really obligated to do it. And I think that a lot of Black people, particularly Black women, feel that just because a person fought for an ability to do it, that doesn't mean that you should do it. Not all the time. And that's why you're walking down the street with your panties on. Literally. That's why you're at these slut walks with these buzz cut bitches, like in your panties, walking down the boulevard, chanting and stuff. Because 100 years ago, women fought for the right to wear bikinis at a beach when it's hot. And you like, now I gotta do this. Now I gotta slut walk. It's like, really, do you have to? Like women fought for education, and Black women like, now I gotta get an education now because anything. It's like, well, do you want to go to school? It's like, and yes, they fought for the right to not be housewives, and Black women took it to like, oh no, I can't be a housewife. It's like, well, you can. They fought for the option to not be one if you choose not to be one, but that doesn't mean you have to exercise that option. They completely they like took all the struggles of America and they made it their obligation to do the exact opposite. It's weird. It's kind of like a Native American who feels like he or she has to live on a reservation. Our ancestors fought for this reservation, therefore I got it. It's like, well, do you really? Do you really? I mean, you can live anywhere you want to as an American citizen, which is what you are. And if you want to keep your land, and you should, and do whatever you like with it, you can. You're not bound by the freedoms and choices that your ancestors fought for. They fought for choices, which is what you now have.
I had an incredibly vivid dream one time. It lasted all of 5 seconds. And I don't know if there was some spiritual thing going on. I don't know. But I had a dream that I was a slave on a slave ship and I felt every feeling of it. I was like chained down and I was laying down and I was surrounded by people and there was just barely enough space above me. And I felt.
And this isn't a dig. I never had that feeling. I never had that dream, and I'm older than her. Um, because I don't know. I don't know enough details of the conditions of it to really like be able to bring it up in my mind. Like, I mean, of course, I've seen the movie Amistad. I know that they were packed like sardines and stuff, but it seems like there's so much more to it that I'm unaware of, to where it doesn't even like I couldn't even get the details in my imagination right. So it's nothing bad that she had. Like, trust me, I had weirder dreams than that. It's not a bad thing. I'm just like, where is she getting this from? Like, where does she get all that from? Like, to understand the middle passage so well, to where she can have a vivid dream about it. That's interesting.
Oh, incredibly claustrophobic and like I couldn't breathe and I felt like I was gonna die. And I was
That's what it's called, right? The middle passage.
like chained up so I couldn't move. I cannot believe they did that to people. Oh my God, for months. Can you imagine? And I never really understood why I had that dream. I was like, man, that was such a random, vivid dream for me to have out of nowhere. Because I never had a dream like that before. I wonder if maybe that's the moral. I don't know. But it is crazy to think about that all the shit that your ancestors had to go through so that you could have the privilege of being called an Oreo. How dare someone call you diverse, well-read, well-spoken, and educated? Makes me also wonder if somebody calling somebody Oreo is coming from a jealous place as well. A little hatred for the privilege that somebody is perceived as having.
Okay, now she's on to something. I mean, it's about to end, and it's sad that it's ending on this note. I'm gonna get in touch with her. I'm gonna send her an email, and hopefully we do a one-on-one, because she's definitely going somewhere with that. And I think that that's why it's felt deeper on a female side than it is a male side. I think that that is something that really needs to be unpacked. I think that there is some jealousy going on, and that's because Black women are, they are intensely jealous of white women. They are intensely jealous of white women. I'm gonna say it one more time. Black women are intensely jealous of white women. So it's would stand to reason that that jealousy would be expressed in a woman like yourself, an Oreo. I there's definitely a there. I mean, gosh, I wish you could lead with that. If you led with that in another video, and I'm gonna check your, because this is the only video of yours of hers I've seen. So, but because that's definitely something that's worthy of unpacking. And if you haven't, I would like for you to do so on my channel. So to unpack that on the channel, because I think that that's was really going on. It wasn't this whole Oreo thing. It wasn't, yeah, you was caught that by a Black guy in junior high who obviously had a crush on you, and you hit the girl that you like type thing. But yeah, that's something worth exploring.
Just by virtue of them speaking with a Caucasian affectation. Somebody hears that you sound like you've been around white people your whole life. And I guess that's enough for them to think, oh, you're privileged, you're soft, you've had a soft life. And I could see.
You did have a soft life. The fact that you want to be from the hood, or you admire that, and you never been in a fight, means that you had a soft life.
See why somebody would feel jealous of that. So I would say,
and also
jealous, for people who are being called Oreos, maybe you have some compassion towards the people that are calling them that. Obviously, do not bow to a bully. Don't do that. Like I said, they call me an Oreo. But if little Brianna was back in time, I would double down on that shit and I would make them feel bad. But I would try to be patient before it got that far. Hopefully this video helps you. And if you're on your own journey, you're not alone. Obviously, we're out here in the world somewhere. I know we're not all next to each other, but we are here on the internet and we can talk to each other via that way. Aren't we so lucky to exist during a time where we can talk on the internet with each other? That's great. So I think
it's not great. I mean, because of this, you're not talking with, you're having poor interactions with people one-on-one. I think that goes a long way to why people aren't interacting IRL as much anymore. So it's good and bad.
Originally, that's what I really wanted. I really wanted to create a community for people to be able to come and help each other not feel so alone. Because, bitch, I'd be lonely. I'm not even going to lie. I know how to make friends now, but it would be great to talk to people who have some similar experiences. Give me your experiences in the comments. Definitely, I would love to hear it. I always love hearing solidarity. What do you think about if you're a person who calls people Oreos? What do you think about that? Why do you feel like that's okay? Do you think that Oreo is a slur? That's very interesting that I learned that it's being considered a slur. I just thought it was like a mean thing you called somebody, like when you call somebody a nerd. But what are your experiences if you've been called an Oreo? I would love to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you can see more content from me. I would love to have you here as part of my humanikins. That's what I'm calling my subs. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you next time.
All right. So there's this concept of Bridget. So, and I didn't know this. Believe it or not, I actually got that term from so y'all may be aware of this, y'all may not be, but Danica Marie, of all people, has a younger sister, a girl by the name Diamond. And she introduced me to a term called Bridget. And apparently, Bridget is a woman who's like her. It would be the black female equivalent to, um, or excuse me, it would be the black female opposition of Keisha. So if it were a spectrum, the further away from Keisha you are, the more Bridget you are. So, and when she broke down to me what that is, so I was on the show with them. This was a show on her Patreon. When she broke down to me what that is, I was like, "Oh yeah, I like that." I much prefer Bridget over Keisha. And it's funny because when I said that, uh, Danica, she put a survey in her chat room saying, "Which do you prefer, Bridget or Keisha?" And her little sister, identifies as a Keisha. And then it was like 82% Keisha because I guess her little sister is cute. So it was like 82% Keisha. And I was like, oh crap. Y'all are just going with the titties that are in front of you. Like, come on now. You can't deny that you do want a Keisha. Or excuse me, you do want a Bridget. What is Bridget? Lisa Turtle is a Bridget. Stacey Dash on Clueless is a Bridget. You want that Bridget. Even what's that cheerleader movie name? What's the name of that cheerleader movie? Bring It On. She was a Bridget. What's what's her name? With Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union. Like you want that. It's less hassle. It's less of that crap that they was going through on Baby Boy. Who wants to be with a chick that say, "I'll call your probation officer and send your black ass back to jail"? Like, would Bridget ever say something like that? Like, come on now. Like, so, and this was a pejorative. The word Bridget was a bad thing. It was up there like pick me or what have you, like, oh yes, she's a Bridget. Just it's like, wait, what the fuck is a Bridget? I guess it's the like female equivalent to like Poindexter or something like that. Like, what's wrong with a Poindexter? What's wrong with being a Bridget? So there is this thing going on that black women have against non-Keisha style black women. There is a thing. There is an actual thing. Oh my gosh. Hold on. I'm looking at her. comment section, and I'm gonna share that with y'all. And it's a lot of black dudes here. And I would assume that it'll be like other Bridget style black women. Because that's who she was talking to. But yeah, it looks like there's a lot of brothers there. So yeah, I'm gonna read some of these. But there is this hidden dislike of those type. And the only way that a Keisha or a group of Keishas would embrace a Bridget is if she was trying to be like them, if the Bridget was trying to be like Keisha. Because what that does is it puts Keisha as the superior thing. But really, I mean, deep down, they want everything you have, but they've convinced you to want everything that they have. I don't know how they did that. They started you off at a very young age, through a series of, because, okay, the only thing Keisha has is each other and a bunch of thirsty pookie niggas. But the only thing that they really have is each other. And that's the one thing you don't have. You have the world. They have each other. You have a better relationship with the world. And the men in it. And they don't have that. And nor can they get that over a long period of time, unless they can code switch indefinitely, which they can't. Keisha cannot code switch indefinitely. Even that whole, what's her name? New trophy wife chick could not code switch indefinitely. They just can't. Eventually, Keisha is going to Keish. So there is that and that's that is the pushback that you were getting from the women, and that just falls under the category of just blind hatred, jealousy induced hatred. Now I'm going to talk about the pushback that you may have received from the men. The men don't want to see women like you, because you represent something that is unattainable. And though that wasn't the case with you, because you was actually trying to be down, like, yeah, I'll be down, for whatever. Like, like he said on Baby's Kids, you ain't got to be down with those little bastards. Anyway, um, I digress. But really, many Bridgets are difficult to obtain by brothers, even nerds, even nerds, because I'm hood raised. And that's because the conclusion that you came to at 26, they came to at 16, which makes them ridiculously harder to get at. And I'll give you an example. So there was this sorority. I'm not going to say the name of it, and I'm not even sure if it was local or a national sorority, because Black people, we have like the Divine Nine, which is national, maybe even international, and it's and they're longer. They're they have like a longer, deeper tradition. White people, they have some fraternities and sororities like that too, but the bulk of them is something that somebody started maybe like 5 years before they got to that university. And it's cool locally, and maybe it became popular in a bunch of other local universities, but it still stays in like California or something like that. And it's no more than 20 years old. So I don't know if this sorority, I don't know which one this sorority was, but the girls in this particular white sorority were reputedly a freak. They were freaks. And I used to hear a story primarily from white boys about how they got down, and I wanted to be a part of that freakiness. But to be perfectly honest, especially at the time, I wasn't really into white girls like that. From a physical standpoint, like, and that's true today. They're not my first choice from a physical preference standpoint. Yeah, that's just what it is. And no shade to them. So the idea for me, the ideal girl for me would be to get with a black girl in this particular white sorority. So I got shot down twice by two different ones in that same in that sorority. And a funny thing was going on though. Like when I hit her, I'll tell you the first time I did it, you know, I went straight to her. It was her and it was two other white girls there. I went straight, I went straight to the black chick. I went straight to her, you know, and shot my shot. I forget for the life of me what I said, right? But whatever it was, and those of you who shoot your shot from time to time, yeah, and some of you don't because we live in a different time and everybody wants to date online or do something else. And I know guys aren't shooting their shot like they did back when I was in college, but that's okay. But well, maybe it's not, but that's an adaptation to the times. Um, but you can kind of tell with through body language when a woman or girl is not interested, and she made it blatantly clear that she wasn't, while at the same time her friend made it blatantly clear that she was, even though I wasn't talking to the white girls. She made it blatantly clear that she was interested. So shout out to what's that movie called? Deep Cover with Omar Epps and LL Cool J. There was a scene on there that we were saying locally ever since that movie. It's like, oh man, GC, she was smiling at you with her pussy. That's what this white girl was doing. She was smiling at me with her pussy, and I was still going after this black chick that was overtly giving me no play. And like I say, that happened more than once. And I was like, wow. And then I had to realize that she has already, her experience, the black girl's experience with black people was completely different than the white girl's experience with black people. You know, she had something to prove. Like me walking on campus with her, we're just like a black couple, and she loses her place in white society because the perception of her is more like, oh, she's black. She's not part of this, she's not part of the white circles anymore. She's part of the black circles anymore. Look at her boyfriend. Where the white girl would still be white if she was with me. So they're not, it's a very weird dynamic. So there is that going on now. And now back to her, back to the girl back to Bree, the girl we just were talking about. Black guys have felt that way about certain type of black girls, and they found it to be in their best interest to just get at the white girl at that point. Hey, I don't make these rules, Bree, but that's how it is. That's how it is. And the white girls in the story I just told, they weren't unattractive or anything. It's not like they looked like Roseanne and Rosie O'Donnell and shit. These were attractive white girls. It's just that I was more into the black girl. Yeah, I mean, but we only get one shot. I mean, like, hey, we only get one shot. We understand that in your case, you have something to prove. So you might not be as receptive as the white girls who really don't have anything. They don't have to prove their whiteness. It's just given. So we get that, and don't hate you, but if you don't get the attention that you want from black guys, I think that in a lot of cases it's that feeling that a lot of black guys have. And then I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is sad, and once again, this is to you southern niggas, a lot of black guys are just downright intimidated by attractive women. They're just downright intimidated by attractive women. They think that a black girl who's attractive is just destined to be with Brad, and in many cases they make it into a self-fulfilling prophecy. But yeah, they're just downright intimidated, and that's just is what it is. So, and from the black girl's point of view, especially one like yourself, you probably look at it as they're being standoffish, or they feel that you're not good enough for them. But it's really the exact opposite. They're just intimidated by a black girl who's not fat and not belligerent and actually is desirable. So you find yourself in the midst of a lot of strange stuff that's going on, and that's coming from the black men. So you probably aren't getting the amount of attention that your looks and intellect would warrant, and that may cause some confusion. And that's from the black men. The black girls, they just look at it as downright jealousy, and they really don't like you. They really, really, really don't like you. And there's nothing you could do to change that. Like, you'll never be at the top of their social hierarchy. Like, I would not. You're right to not try. I mean, and I'm talking about, like, it's a difference between being a part of something based on a shared culture. I mean, like, if you're part of a football team, or okay, like me, I could never be in high school or in college. I could never be like the captain of the basketball team or anything like that. The best I could be is water boy. So it's that's where my talents lie. You will never be at the top of blackness, but could I, and was I friends with people who were athletes? Absolutely, because I'm friends with the person, not I'm friends with who they are, not what they are. So can you have individual black friends who just so happen to be on some Keisha crap? Absolutely. But can you be friends with them as Keisha? No. And that's because they hate you. They freaking hate you. They hate what you stand for. What they stand for is in conflict of what you stand for, even if you are not in conflict with them. It is a dream of theirs to be as privileged as a white girl and still be black. And you are living that dream. And the fact that you are living that dream and you don't want it is really an insult. It's a slap in their face. Think about your favorite person, or at least your favorite character in one of your favorite movies, as you stated, and that is Laura London in ATL. And I come to realize, because I remember I was saying earlier in this video, hit the like button. I was saying earlier in this video how T.I. would have been with her even if she came from this neighborhood and blah, 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 blah. But I had to think about it. And just now it occurred to me, like, would she still have had the black female friends that she had if she came from that neighborhood? And that's the kicker. She probably wasn't even doing the whole new thing for T.I. She probably was doing the whole new thing for, her black female friends. Because when she did that whole slow motion thing and she's in the middle like she's Beyonce and she had the twins on either side and stuff like that, they probably wouldn't have been there if they knew where she really was from, if they knew that she was a Bridget, because they rather the company of Nunu than Bridget, because like Nunu is more relatable, and they just don't want guys to get in the habit of getting with Bridget. To be perfectly honest, hit the like button. All right, so said the movie where LL's character's name was God. Yeah, that was weird. That was weird. Be like, hey, my name is LL, but my friends call me God. That is somebody. Yeah, you know, when you say I want to be from the hood, they don't tell you about stuff like that, do they? You know, like the moment somebody says something like that is the day I want to leave the hood. Like, oh, okay. I'm gonna just go over here and stare at a brick wall. I'm not going to continue a conversation with somebody who calls himself God. Yeah. My mother was a sharecropper and I've never dreamt of being a slave. How old are you? She was an actual sharecropper. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what a sharecropper is, after slavery, they it was a complicated time because slavery was illegal, and but they still needed people to work the fields, and black people didn't really have many skill sets because they spent their whole lives as slaves. So they came up with a compromise, and to me it was an ingenious one, and that is, but of course I've never been a sharecropper, so I don't know, but and that was they're like, okay, we'll give you a portion, and by give I mean in a sense that you a long-term lease, in exchange for you working the entirety of the field. We give you a portion of the field that, and whatever you grow on it is yours. So say it's sugar or something like that. Okay. 15 or 20% of all these acres is yours. All the sugar you grow on that is yours. And at the end of the harvest, when you turn everything in and you get the money, that portion is your money to do whatever you want with, even though it was grown on my land. And in exchange, you work the entirety of the land. That's what a sharecropper is. I didn't actually, I thought that was something that ended probably like 100 years ago. So, but I'm probably wrong. I mean, and there really isn't anything illegal or immoral in my opinion about it. That's with anything. Like if I was to buy a local shop and say, okay, if you work this shop, you can have a cut of the profits. There's really nothing wrong with that, especially if that shop just takes off, then it's a win-win. If I was to open like a dispensary, I was like, okay, well, you work it and I'll foot the bill. We all have strange dreams, but to make a video to push an agenda is another thing. What do you think her agenda was? I don't know. I've seen it. I've seen it with others like her. I'm not saying that the agenda doesn't exist. I'm saying that it's probably an overreaction, but I do understand that women have a stronger need to fit in. And she admits that she's still trying to find her tribe. So no, I don't think that it's an issue that don't exist. I don't know. I just wish that it didn't for her. All our culture is poison pill programming from the media and the government meant to keep you in a box. Not all, but a large portion of it, absolutely. Especially as the media, as the technology that fuels the media has become more sophisticated. Absolutely, absolutely, I agree with that statement. The problem today is everyone wants to be the same. Gen X wanted to be individuals and different. We had bullies that would punk you for being a poser. Okay, so I don't see much different in that regard. It does seem so. It seems like Gen Z and millennials also, they are really trying to find their own identity, like Gen X and boomers. Like, they all are trying to find an identity that's separate from their parents. And they wind up conforming while attempting to not conform. For example, these freaking pronoun posers, right? Like, oh yes, I'm different because I use these pronouns, but the person next to you is using a pronoun, and the person next to that person is using a pronoun. Like, oh no, I'm different because I have a septum ring. It's like, yeah, but she has a septum ring, and she has a septum ring, and she has a septum ring. Like, like it's the same thing with our generation. In an attempt to be different and stand out, you wind up doing the same thing everybody else, because once people appreciate your difference, they tend to mimic it. So it's yeah. As a black street nerd from the south side of Chicago, I can relate. Probably something I said from the east side of Oakland. Probably to something I said as a black nerd from the east side of Oakland. But let's see. Either be assimilated into Keisha Board Collective or be ostracized. Yeah. Yeah. That's what it seems to come down to. It seems like it's a lot harsher on the female side. The whole reason why I advocate people should get into MMA. Yeah, absolutely. Some form of self defense. No, it's not going to help that, 85-pound Asian girl. Weight classes exist for a reason. You got to elaborate. You disagree with her, elaborate. There are all types of cliques black people belong to based off their interests. She's just generalized all black people to cope with being a weirdo. Well, I'm a weirdo as well. So I don't know. Huh. Wonder how true that statement is. Black culture does seem a lot more homogenous than white culture, but probably because there's fewer of us. I mean, like, one of the many different cultural groups of black people, of white people, is black white people, is black people who emulate white culture. It was weird. So there was a TV show. I think it was on MTV or something, um, called "I Can't Believe She's Going Out with Him," and and they showed like a local suburb of the Bay Area. I forget where it was, and it was these white kids doing local Bay Area stuff that black people did, and it was the weirdest thing to see. And they had like their own clique. Like, for example, like going stupid was when niggas would jump on people's car. So imagine you're driving by, minding your own business on your way to Cracker Barrel, and a group of young niggas just come out of nowhere and start jumping on your car. And they do it so often that they have a name for it. And it's so stupid that the name of this action is going stupid or going dumb. That was an actual thing. And I was there when it first started, when they first jumped on the first person's car. I was like, niggas is stupid. And then they started making videos like Oakland Gone Wild, where, you know, it became a pastime. Like people literally bought golf clubs from home just so they can mess up people's car because they stupid. So anyway, these white kids thought that was cool, and they did it, but they did it to their own damn car. And they also participate in stuff called ghostwriting. I'm not gonna say what that is; just look it up. But y'all get the point. I seen it and I was like, dang, they emulate really, really tough. They even had wigs on. It was very weird. So my point is that wasn't, I'm pretty sure, of the high school that they were in, that wasn't the entirety of the white culture. That was just a small portion of it. There was a, I'm pretty sure they had like preppy whites, goth whites, I think they have like kids that pretend to be vampires or crap like that. They had the anime nerds. Like they have like different groups. They have diverse groups. Ours is more homogenized, but that's understandable considering that it's fewer of us. Somebody says she needed a black boyfriend growing up. That's I am curious to know if she ever had at least one black boyfriend. Oh, actually, you bring up a good point. Hit the like button. You bring up a good point. And that is another reason why she probably didn't get the attention from black men that her looks and intelligence would and articulation would warrant. And that's because, listen, young black men knew that if you get with one Bridget, you ruin your chances with 6 Keishas. I repeat, if you get with one Bridget, you ruin your chance with 6 Keishas. Just like once you get with a white girl, the black girls they make life harder for you to get with them. Like, okay, if you're gonna parade around campus with this white girl, understand that you lose opportunities with black girls, with a number of black girls. Now, the same thing is true for the Bridget types. It's just that it's not spoken. They're not going to say that, but because what you did was you declared a type. You declared a type that's different than what they are. So once you do that, and black boys knew this, once you declare that, listen, I am on Team Bridget, you lose Team Keisha, and unfortunately, it's more Keishas than there are Bridgets. So you've made your choice, and that choice is, you've made your choice, and now you lose in booty. So some of them may find it in their best interest to mirror the disdain that the black woman has for Bridget and say, oh no, you're an Oreo. Really just hoping that would win them points with Keisha. That is a thing too. What part? You brought up an interesting point here. It says, it's funny that these people never say that they're tired of appeasing non-black people. That's why I hear her, but it's still cringe. Good point. It did seem like she went from I'm no longer going to try to appease black people to how to get along with my racist white friends, which is not a good place, because what you saying is true there. So yeah. Now she hasn't tried to appease non-black people for as long, but it did seem like she went from trying to appease one group of people that don't like what she stands for to trying to appease another group of people that don't like what she stands for. Regular black Americans must be firm and separate from and separate the good from the bad. Yeah, and the unfortunate thing for the women, especially, is that is the chameleon aspect. There are black women who try to pretend. There are Keishas who try to pretend to be Bridget when my penis is involved. Okay, if I want some GameChanger penis and I know he likes Bridget's, that is what I'm going to try to emulate, making it difficult for us to distinguish the two. Now, hood niggas, however, they like the Pookie Ray Ray types, they never try to pretend. They just stay who they are, and they only try to code switch like right before the police baton hit them upside the head. Like that is the only time they code switch. And by then it's too late because it's already like mid swing, like the baton is coming. So they do have that added obstacle, meaning that if Bridget dressed a certain way, behaved a certain way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they would try to emulate it once again for my penis. That's what Sprinkle Sprinkle movement is about. You said 98th Brookfield, 98th Avenue. Okay. So I used to stay for a little bit on 92nd and B. So yeah, I'm not from there, but that's where I used to stay. So yeah, you're in the deep east, or you were in the deep east. That's cool. All right. Let's see. Another L. Root word of culture is cult. Okay, I see where you're going with this. It operates on the psychology of money, monkey see, monkey do. Okay. I wouldn't. I mean, your comment has overtone that that's a bad thing. Uniformity and consistency and predictability. There's some positives to that, especially if it's cohesive. Let's see. We are being programmed like a computer. You're talking about by the powers that be. Who's the programmer? I like your point, but who's the programmer in this scenario? Many Bridgets go Pookie for similar reasons to appease Keisha. Well, from what she described, it seemed like her friend did that. From what she described, it seems like her friend did that, which would explain why Pookie has this thing against educated lames, because then they're missing out. Then like if educated lames were to get together and create a culture where women like the one that we just seen and her friend were comfortable in, then they would lose that advantage. They would lose that edge that they have. They would lose the attention of young ladies who really just want to be a part of something, and they're the only something that's out there for them to be a part of. So, that's what they would lose. But the truth of the matter is that they want an established community of non-Pookie black men. That's why these bitches are at Afrotech, in droves. That's why they're at NBA All-Star games in droves. I mean, of course there's money, but money is just a byproduct of functionality in many cases. They want that. And Pookie do fear establishing that. I've realized that in this space, how much hate I get for being a nerd and for being an educated lame that I didn't get out to remind you, I didn't get this type of hate until YouTube, unlike her who got into school. So I'm like, what the fuck is these niggas on? I've never been so shot at, people talking about stoves for 5 years, just full on retards. I never got so much pushback, from the Pookie and it's all come from like the Pookie conservationists. But it is what it is because for the most part, I'm cool with Pookies, and that's another fact. So, I forget where I was going with that. Let's see. Yeah, to appease Keisha. Absolutely. Or to be Keisha. That's I think that's what you're getting at. They go to Pookie's to be Keisha, like her friend did. And it seemed like she would have, but she just is not attracted to Pookie like that. She want to be a part of blackness without being a part of Pookiness, and she is griping with that. And there are black men out there who want to be with Bridget. However, it's difficult to break that exterior. So yeah, the power that B can use an actor based reality to control your mind. Yeah, true. So we're talking about the same powers to be. That's why the stars are paid so well to produce fake news. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can easily hire people to create a culture that benefits you. I always think about that term that they had like back in the hippie days, where they say don't trust anybody over 30. And I was like, okay, it had to have been somebody over 30 that came up with that phrase. Somebody over 30, probably a group of people over 30, got together and said, I want to teach these kids not to trust anybody over 30s. So they came up with that catchphrase. They hired a bunch of 20 somethings to say don't trust people over 30. And then the young people stopped trusting people over 30. They only trust people in their 20s, but the people in their 20s are being paid off by the people in their 30s. So they're stupid. That was the okie doke. Well, I shouldn't say they're stupid, but they were young. That was the okie doke. It's like, don't trust your parents. Don't trust anybody who is actually telling you something that you need to know to prepare you for life. Trust the people who pays younger people to tell you to drink Sprite. And there you have it. Every time a black chick steps out of the Keisha mold, of course she has to look good too. She does well. I'm not talking about well like a corporate ladder type well. I'm talking about like like um like that who's that kitchen girl? Who's that kitchen? Who's that kitchen chick? The kitchen girl that everybody's going over. It's not cooking with Keisha. What's her name? Come on, help me out, fellas. Help me out. Thank you. Cooking with Kaya. Cooking with Kaya. So I mean, of course, she's fat. She's fat, and that's what we want. Oh no, we don't want them fat girls. Let's be clear on that. We don't clip me on that. We don't want them fat girls. Fat, food, ass, and titties. That's what we want. We want food, ass, and titties. And she got all three. I need a fat girl, yo. Food, ass, and titties. So, but really, it's the concept, and the reason why she's viral and so controversial is because she is an attractive woman, which is making women jealous. And she's introducing the notion of black female submission, all with a Keisha swag. So they don't like that direction because she represents competition and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's why she gets a lot of pushback. I mean, it's the basic jealousy that comes with being an attractive woman, but it goes deeper with this whole Bridget thing, because the concept of a black woman treating a black man right scares black women who wants to convince black men that being treated poorly is a black thing, that's just part of being black. Me treating you like shit and you taking it is just part of being black. So women who present as if they'll do different, like the Bridgets, threatens the very existence of their ever drying vaginas. It does. I'm hungry. So yeah, I actually got a Zoom room going on. Y'all could participate. We could continue the conversation over there, but and y'all can email me for the link. I'm gonna be there for a bit. After I get something to eat. I am hungry. Man, you know what I'm gonna do? I normally cook, but I think I'm gonna get me a whole Chipotle, a big one. I'm famished. All right. So I'd like to thank it. Oh, let me check my whatchamacallit. All right. I like to thank Josh for he didn't send it to me now, but for the Cash App, greatly appreciate you. Like then Cash Apps and Super Chats, managers and moderators, those who are listening silently and those participating in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. And this is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.